What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, your weekly show covering all the biggest topics of the gaming industry with legal, technical, and industry insight. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by this cast of characters you see in front of you. So, first up is the man whose camera never shuts off, the Hogue himself. Good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you doing, Ains? It did shut off yesterday. I took great pains to not stream anything yesterday.
Or you get one day off a week now. Okay.
Maybe it's pretty funny in this current environment. Of course, I get hundreds of messages, and so I try to respond to people. It's that Midwestern value, where I say, "Hey, you took the time to write something, sometimes very long to me. I would like to at least acknowledge it." And I am just failing. I'm just failing this week.
Sometimes you're sitting at a Cracker Barrel, you're getting DMs and you just feel the need to respond. You know what I mean?
Man, it would be better if I were sitting at a Cracker Barrel responding to them. Certainly. Yeah.
So sorry we're a little late starting today. We were engaged in a big Cracker Barrel debate. Travis, in his uncultured San Francisco self, does not know the greatness of Cracker Barrel.
Well, honestly, his horse is so high.
Culture. Yeah. The height of culture.
You haven't lived until you played giant checkers, Travis, on two rocking chairs, right? I mean, and just sitting there and rocking in front of the fireplace and
going to the old-timey shop,
eating some stuff to plug your heart out,
like your grandma used to give you.
Yeah, probably from that time.
Takes you back. Takes you back.
It's literally. Oh, good stuff.
Travis, how you doing?
Man.
I'm good, man. I'm chilling. I'm working on reviews, getting stuff done, not eating at Cracker Barrel. Life is good.
And Dan, you eating at Cracker Barrel, enjoying it, living it, loving it?
I did yesterday, actually. I was telling the guys that yesterday my kids both started their job at Cracker Barrel. I have twin boys who are 16 years old. I met their mom at Cracker Barrel. So it's like everything's coming, full circle here, right? I walk in, he's a host, one of them, and he's, flirting with one of the other hosts. I'm like, well, this takes me back. This is great. So, then I had some French toast and some eggs and some hash brown casserole, which is amazing. Sausage. It's a good day.
So when you go to Cracker Barrel, is it like reminiscent and romantic of a bygone age, or does your wife think that you're cheating on her looking for a new model? Like what?
We only go together.
I see. Okay, you're not allowed to get off the leash there.
You can't go Cracker Barrel solo. No.
Can't
do that.
Okay,
that's really kind of creepy, actually.
Well, I'm glad that you can go there with your wife. That's kind of kinky. It's good times.
Welcome to the Cracker Barrel chat that you didn't expect today, but we're here. So today,
restaurants, I think, right?
Restaurant chat today. It is going to be a pretty straightforward show today in the sense of we're going to talk about kind of three main topics. We got a couple games to talk about. I'm going to talk about some Witcher 3 next gen impressions, which I'm excited to share. We're going to do a full rundown of the Game Awards, including some praise and I'm sure some rants about the categories and award winners. And then we will tackle the chaos that ensued this week with the FTC announcing they are going to sue to block Microsoft's acquisition of Activision and Blizzard, which Hogue has been dying to talk about all week. So I'm just doing him a favor at this point. But we'll keep that segment a little on the shorter side to give Hogue a little relief because, as always, we will forward you to his channel directly. But anyway, before we get into that, a couple things, housekeeping items. I did update the channel memberships this morning with icons for the four of us that will work on either light or dark mode. Ooh. So you have your Ains Chief helmet, you have your Hogue scales, you have your tie guy Travis tie, and you have your Dan 7 free to use at will, along with the verses, and the heart is coming as well. Just stay tuned for that one. And shout out to Rob Frawley, who just became a channel member. Rob, appreciate you, man. On that note, we've got a couple super chats right out of the gate too. We'll hit before we get started, and you know how Googleman 81 does it around here. He gives us our super sticker right out of the gate.
Love it. Hype. That's what it says. With a hip. The hippo.
The hip. Yeah, Google Man giving us hip. That's what we're doing here. 5 years. Thank you very much, Google Man. Google Man. Appreciate you, brother. And then Gecko Gamer, as always, in the house.
What was the Bill Clinton stuff about? All right.
We're starting right away, Gecko.
Security is what it's about.
Yeah. Let's go crazy.
It is Jeff's frustration for the year, I think, is what that is really going to be.
I said this on Twitter, but I mean it sincerely. He's lucky that that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole host of ways that could go horribly wrong.
100%. Yeah. And I don't think we will see that type of breach again. For someone to literally just walk up with Miyazaki and the guys from and stand on stage, center stage, is without anyone noticing.
It wasn't just
wild.
It wasn't just anybody though. It was Will Smith's son, right?
Yeah.
I think that whole family, they just have stage immunity, right? When they're at award shows, they just get
shit.
Yeah.
I almost hit the wrong button here. Thank you, guys. All right. So let's go ahead. We've got we had Eric write in. We got a kind of a listener question. So Eric, Game Positive, one of the contributors of Season Gaming, he adores God of War 2018, and he loved Ragnarok. And he has listened to us preach about the poor pacing of that game, and not the debate about that, but he did ask us what we believe is what we, in our opinion, would be a perfectly or a very well-paced game. And so I hadn't really thought about this ahead of time. I put it on the notes. But I didn't know if you guys had one that jumps to the top of mind that you think is like an expertly paced game.
Sure, of the type of God of War Ragnarok, Uncharted 2.
Uncharted 2. Well, that is a good one. And you know what's funny about that is that, I've preached a lot in the past few weeks around, I think that this whole pacing thing is not a Ragnarok problem. It's a Sony first party problem with their new games. And it's a shame because I look back, I know we've talked about this. I look back at the Uncharted 2s, the first Last of Us, those games, and I think these were expertly crafted experiences. And then I look at Last of Us 2 and I look at Ragnarok and I look at, I haven't finished it, so you guys can speak to it better than me, but I've heard Forbidden West is a little all over the place at times.
Open world to me is a little, the reason I put it in Uncharted to even describe as different is because open world is a little bit harder to call on pacing. I do in fact, for like Red Dead Redemption and things like that, but you can control your experience a little bit more. And one of the complaints I have with open world pacing is that if you put too much stuff that is at least moderately good, so you don't want to ignore it because there's sometimes nuggets of interest in there, but there's a lot of junk. That's one of the real problems with open world pacing for me. I think Zero Dawn is actually really guilty of this, where there's some good quests and they're far outweighed by the junk in Zero Dawn. So you feel bad about just skipping through open world stuff, but you also don't feel so bad because there's so much kind of detritus in there. So I do think when we're talking about Ragnarok, though, it's best to think of kind of the linear video games and what good pacing looks like there, in my opinion.
It's more of a hub and spoke thing, but we've already discussed it. We're not staying on it today. But the pacing issues with Ragnarok are in the core missions, like the stuff you have to do. So anyway, there you go. Uncharted 2. Well, I think we can all move forward with that one. That's
Titanfall 2 as well.
Titanfall 2, fantastic
great game. Every level introduced a new mechanic, bring it all together at the end. Really good pacing. Very
good call out. There you go. All right, let's jump into what we're currently playing. So, guys, let's start on the positive note. So I've been playing Witcher 3 on the Series X.
Talk to me about sexy new cameras, Ames.
Oh man. So let's just back up 1 second, right? So I don't know why I forgot this. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It might be my favorite game of all time. And let's remember that this game came out in 2015 on the base Xbox One and PS4. It was primarily developed during the 360 generation, which sounds crazy nowadays, but the game is 7 coming up on 8 years old since release. And it had a few updates along the way, as we know, of frame rates push and these things, but it has retained that kind of look of that early PS4 and Xbox One era on console, right? On PC, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. What I expected out of this update was obviously a marked improvement, but I will tell you, and this should make a lot of people happy, this improvement is much larger than I expected it to be. It literally feels and plays like a game that was made now.
Really?
Yeah, it's got a quality and performance mode, which they've already said the quality mode has the ray trace stuff, blah, 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 30 frames. The performance mode, as we always usually preach here, is where it's at. It is beautiful in performance mode. And they did say ahead of time that the new performance mode on this update still has higher quality textures, foliage, all those things that go into it, shadows, reflections, than even the old quality mode did. So it not only looks better, but it's butter smooth. In fact, the only time I ever see any hitch at all in terms of frame rate is actually when it's just auto saving. It hitches really quickly. But it is really, really stunning. The new kind of foliage mod they used and the lighting mod, it just, it was already a beautiful game, but it's a really, really stunning game now. And it is exceptional to play. And I have no joke, guys. I played almost 8 hours yesterday. Because I'm capturing footage. We're going to be doing a video and things for this week when it releases. But it is, if you are excited about this update and you love Witcher 3, then you don't have to be nervous. Be excited because you're going to enjoy it. It's that.
Oh, yeah. What improvements did they give to Gwent?
So I was playing Gwent yesterday quite a bit, already hunting down the cards. The Gwent is the Gwent you remember and love. They did not change it or bring over anything from like the Gwent standalone game.
I want the animated cards.
2 Gwent standalone games. To be clear.
Yeah, if you count Thronebreaker, right? But there are other things I've noticed which I didn't expect. They said there's other things in this update that they've done. So for instance, when you start the game, it gives you that like graphic novel storybook reading like intro to game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They added a ton to it, and they added stuff that has like
Funny,
a lot more context. They added stuff that gives it a lot more context to like the Northern Realms and what's going on with the Wild Hunt, and you can see that like they knew they were kind of obtuse originally, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's more covered.
Probably useful.
There's a lot more music tracks. It used to be, I remember when I first played the game, when you would get into combat, it had a combat music track. And when that music was playing, you knew you were fighting, as a lot of games do. It uses several different ones now. So that it a little more variety in the music that you hear as you're exploring the world and fighting things. It gives you a full set of armor and weaponry. That's a reference to the show.
Yeah.
Kind of about, as you get through the prologue, if you will. So I think you can use that at level 11. I think I'm level like 9 right now. So I started completely fresh.
Do they call it the Hemsworth?
No, because it's actually useful. I forget what it's called, but you get a note from Yennefer about it, and you can tell it's like an Easter egg, homage to the show and stuff. So anyway, I won't go on too long about it because I know it's out in a couple days as you're listening to this. But it has surprised me in a positive way. I was really looking forward to truly going back through this game, and I am fully addicted yet again. So it's great. Photo mode. So as beautiful it is, it's got photo mode now. And you asked about the camera. So
I did. Did you try the fun new camera?
Yeah, so you can use this kind of closer camera. It's almost like a Gears of War
camera, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like over the shoulder instead of out in front. So
when they put them on the
it.
thirds, which is one of my favorite things, which I know some people hate, like the Cracker Barrel, but I love it when they put the character on the thirds.
Oh man.
I like it for horseback and horse riding. For exploration when I'm walking around, I still use the far one because you can see more around you. But it works well and it looks great. It highlights the world more, as you're using it. The other thing I forgot to mention is the quick casting makes a huge difference. So you remember when you were casting signs before, you had to do that radial menu and you would have to Now all you do is you hold right trigger and then your left trigger and your face buttons are all 5 of your signs. So you just go like bang, bang, and you can just quick cast different signs.
That is better.
Yeah, it's
way better. It's way better.
Give me that Quen action.
Yeah. So it's great.
My biggest problem with The Witcher 3 has always been, will always be, as much as I love Roach, the horseback riding was ass. I mean, it was just terrible. It was hard to control. You would just kind of go all over the place. I'd run into trees constantly.
What are you doing with this horse, Dan?
I'm just telling you, man. Is it any better?
Let's just say that he met the horse at Cracker Barrel.
I did. We were playing.
What? Look, right as you said that, right on cue.
Yeah, you see? Yeah, that's what I'm talking He was clunky.
I don't honestly know. I will say it's
That was
not
exquisite,
as
Travis.
it's not as smooth as it's definitely not as. I can't think of a reference here that I've ridden a horse
Ghost of
in
Tsushima.
recently. I don't remember how smooth that was, to be honest with you. But
Tsushima has
it's
the weirdest start up to a gallop, but
Yeah.
Tsushima does control well.
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it's still a little bit clunky. I haven't had any issues. I wouldn't
Right.
say it's super smooth. It also has a like a pause before your gallop, so you double tap and hold A when you want to race,
Mhm.
and it's like and then gets going. There's like a build up to it, so it's a little bit of a
Sure.
delay, but it's not bad. I haven't had any issues per se.
It's gonna
I
be
did
so
have a mission
good.
where I was in a fist fight, and I was fighting 3 guys. It's pretty early in the game. I think everyone will remember it. And like I was fighting 2 of them, and Roach literally turned and like headbutted the 3rd one and killed him. And I was like,
Man.
I don't know if that was intentional or if that was just a funny Roach moment, but either way, it was cool. So,
Perfect.
but anyway,
Great.
yeah. Any specific questions? That's the most I can say right now. We're not allowed to publish any footage or anything yet, but obviously you'll see that this week. But I think anyone
Wait,
who,
really?
like I said,
There's an embargo on it?
there's
Well,
an embargo on it.
It's funny because The Witcher's social media is putting up user videos like all over the place, and so
They're
I
allowed to.
always love those embargoes, which is like no, not you, friend. We can do that. It's like, well, you're
Yes.
not hiding. All right, fine.
That's bizarre.
Well, and we're allowed to put up footage if it's their footage. You can't put your own footage up.
Oh no, I was just watching it this morning, looking lovingly at the new camera, and they're like, "Thank you, users, etc." So,
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you're gonna enjoy it if you're looking forward to it. You remember Dan when we started playing Valhalla on the Xbox One X,
Yeah.
and then we got the Series X version, and we were like, okay, this is how it should feel, like much smoother.
Right.
You didn't have all those graphical hitches, all that. It's like that.
did they add formatting to the journal entries? This is my personal bugaboo about The Witcher. They don't have space breaks between their paragraphs. It makes me crazy. Here's the real talk, folks. How did it work out, Ains?
I don't think they did. I think you're gonna be disappointed, my friend.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a shame. It's a
Can you
shame.
tell this is a game I've played a few times?
But anyway, look forward to it. I look forward to chatting more about it next week with everyone. But yeah, I'm fully invested, and it's going to be my holiday game. I finished Ragnarok, I finished Callisto, and now I get to relax a little bit with one of the goats. So I'm
And
happy.
Midnight Suns, right, Ains?
That's going to wait a bit.
Horizon
I told you that.
Forbidden West.
Yeah, I know. I'll
You're
get
gonna
there.
go
I'll
back
get there.
to. You're
I'll
not.
get there.
You're
I'll get
not.
there.
You're
No.
not gonna get there, Ains.
I
We
am.
all
Isn't gonna
know
happen.
you're not. You know what
I
you
am.
are? You're like the soldier in the war movie who's like their guts are hanging out, and you're like, "Are we gonna open up that bakery?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Ains, you're gonna open it up. You're gonna open up that bakery, buddy."
Oh, man.
We're gonna have the best muffins. I'm telling you, we're gonna do it.
Yeah, man.
I did for Hogue too. I did play some Immortality this week, but we'll talk more about that as I get more into it. I unlocked an achievement, so I did something. I am very confused still as to what's going on.
One of my
but
favorite
I am
screenshots
playing
that I got out of the Game Awards, which is on my timeline at Hoglaw on Twitter. If you played Immortality at all, the screenshot is fantastic. Go check it out because it is awesome. And I won't say anything more about it because we don't want to spoil Ains.
There you go. Okay. So I heard, gentlemen, during the
By
Game
the way, I'm
Awards.
playing Midnight Suns.
Excellent. Excellent. You guys still love? Actually, real quick question. You don't have to go on, but you still loving it as much as you were last week?
I think it's a top game,
Good game.
period, in this year and maybe others.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good. High praise. Dan said Dan DM'd me and said he didn't want to let you guys know, but he was so intrigued by the dating mechanics, he went out and brought it.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, it's in my cart. That is no joke.
There may be a
At the moment.
hangout. There may be a hangout after Cracker Barrel. I don't know.
Yes.
The hangouts are different per character.
That changes the whole tune. Let's
It's
just keep
true.
going.
It's true.
So
Are we talking about games we're playing, or is just
Kind of.
Witcher?
Ains is trying
Yeah.
to move on, but I'm trying to hold him back.
yeah, the
Fantastic.
usual.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I heard a vicious rumor during the Game Awards that a demo for this hotly anticipated AAA banger, Forspoken, was out, and I've heard that it's gonna set the Game Awards ablaze next year. Gentlemen, talk to me about it.
Dan, why don't you lead off on Forspoken? You were first there. I was second. I think. Are we the only two that have played this?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Anybody
have
I have
else?
not played it.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I said I was secretly hoping this was going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Even though, like, nothing had like jumped out at me where this is going to be like some kind of game changer, but I was like, oh, cool. We get to try it out, see what's up. I mean, almost immediately. I mean, and this is maybe because it's a demo. The tutorial is not very good. I mean, it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't give me enough information about what's going on, and then I get immediately into the combat. It feels like that Wolong game to me. The demo I played for that, where you're holding down certain things and then using, it's just all over the place. It's not very simple, and that I may be able to change that. I didn't really get into the settings too much, but it's not great. There's a lot of talking, which I know you can turn some of that off. I'm not sure if you can turn it all off.
Understand, Dan doesn't mean plot there.
No,
he means
no.
combat, banter,
Chatter.
Yeah, constantly. Yeah, and she just cusses like all the time for some reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
edgy.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not against cussing. I mean, I do it all the damn time. But it's it's something where it's just like, well, that doesn't really fit there, and I don't know, man. It's just not good. That was
No. By the way, on the cussing, it's not like it's actually like, oh, I just got hit or something. It's like, finally, an effing in.
Yeah. Like what? Why? Like why? I mean,
what are we doing?
That's why I wasn't going to interrupt you, Dan. I'm sorry, but I was going to say,
good.
like, what is with the need of these games? Like, I think we talk about the old Uncharted where they started that banter between characters, which was funny and kind of meaningful, but not overdone. And it feels like some of these games are now trying to just talk constantly, but it detracts from the experience.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's super annoying. I mean, we don't need it constantly over and over and over again. During combat, we definitely don't. Just give me some grunts and I'm good.
It's worse than that, right, Dan? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like that trailer that they put out in terms of banter and dialogue. That wasn't like just for the trailer. That's the feel you get. It's a hello fellow kids Marvel approach to writing. It is fellow kids. I have no idea who wrote this, so I'm not trying to call anybody specific out, but it's clearly just trying so darn hard, and it is bad.
Yeah,
it is bad. But worse to me, Dan, I mean, this was my experience. You get in, and it's the typical kind of Luminous Engine monstrosity, which I don't think delivers the product that Square ever wanted it to deliver for Final Fantasy 15 or this. I think the Forspoken basically exists to justify the budget they spent on building that engine, and it looks bland and gray and boring. You're in a fantasy world. The entire premise of Forspoken is this kind of, and I know there's a Japanese word for it, and I can never remember it, of a modern person getting sucked into a different environment, right? So you've got the girl with the sneakers, and she talks like a modern teenager or 20-something.
Isekai is the Japanese
thank you, Travis. I knew you would know. I appreciate it. Yeah, but so it's a genre of getting pulled into a different environment and then kind of reacting to it on the outside. To me, that works best if it doesn't look bland and ridiculous, right? I mean, so it looks like a field in England or something, and it's just not very good. Now I also have to give the caveat here: the demo is broken all over the place in terms of lighting and graphics and frame rate. Not that it doesn't work as like you're playing it, but like my TV literally thinks there's not a PlayStation there if you change it out, if you change a setting. And like the HDR is off, I guess. I don't know. It's got that. I think you know this from some games. Callisto does this a little bit, where it grays out the whole screen and kind of adds brightness to things like mountains and whatnot. So until you correct for that, that's a problem. It crashed a couple times as a demo for me. And then Dan, how do you feel about the menus?
No, they're super confusing and clunky. The traversal is like the only thing that I kind of enjoyed, but even then, it's really it doesn't give you any kind of in depth. And this again might be because it's a demo. Like just tell me a little bit how to do this stuff instead of just throwing you in there and then with terrible controls. I think that's the worst part for me. Is I was just button mashing pretty much the entire time. I was just like, okay, I'm doing this. Okay, I'm supposed to do this. What does that do? And it's just, I'm confused the entire time. I'm just like, man, this just needs to be simplified a little bit. And maybe maybe then I could actually get into it a little bit better. But I just had a hard time just getting into it.
The onboarding, again, I'm going to agree with you. Onboarding is terrible. I actually find this to be a problem with a lot of kind of JRPG onboardings. I remember thinking this with Tales from Arise and their demo, is that because these systems layer on each other, if you could imagine coming in at like hour 75 of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, you'd just die. You'd have no way. You just die. So they just spend hours and hours and hours of bringing you in. I presume Forspoken starts with like, here is your fireball. There is a squirrel. And, you know, going all the way up until you have 16 different fingernails and all this various things. And they want to show off their battle engine. Just to be clear, folks, this is not a demo, even though it's supposed to be an RPG, give or take, or an action adventure or something like that. This is not a demo that features story. This is a demo that puts you in a field that I'm not even positive is in the game. This might have been built for this. And then gives you these dots around the map and then go do and fight this or go do and climb this. And yes, folks, if you've missed tower mechanics in Forspoken, it's very much a Ubisoft kind of approach.
Like climbing the tower and unlocking the map type thing.
Yes, and then looking around to see what you can see and to tag those things. It's a Ubisoft kind of feeling open world, which isn't the end of the world for somebody like me. But in a demo format, there's nothing to love about this area. It looks like a field. I see in chat. I have no problem with England. I just don't find it to be exotic. And all of this, all of this is done after they tell you circle to run, kind of trigger to fire, and good luck. And again, I don't know if you know this, but they start you out at like the easiest mode, so it's like all ridiculous. You're not engaging with anything.
No.
And then it doesn't look great. The voice acting is bad. The dialogue is bad. The combat is clunky. It's a check the box open world. Good demo. Good demo, guys.
Also, just to be clear, Hogue is approximating when he says being dropped into hour 75 of Xenoblade 3. He does not know what hour 75 of Xenoblade 3 is.
Let me drop into hour 58.
There you go.
You know what, Travis, by the way, since you called me out last week, I got 2 more Switch docks so I can actually put it on the TV that I have access to, and I'm gonna get back into that Xenoblade.
Love it.
Is that the same level of statement as I'm opening?
You're gonna open up that bakery,
my sandwich shop.
You're gonna do it, yeah.
I don't think so, because I think we're coming in on kind of an easing of my gaming schedule, and obviously I don't have anything going on with the video channel or the law firm at the end of the transactional year. So definitely no holidays with the family. It'll be fine.
All right. Well, I think many of us who pay attention to that's going to sound weird, but many of us who look at this stuff day in, day out, saw Forspoken, saw the delays on it, kind of watch what they were showing, and it was like, this one looks questionable. I don't know. So
there's been something wrong. Yeah.
It just something seemed off, and from what I'm hearing from you guys and some others, it's not standing up too high right now. So we'll see what happens.
People in the chat arguing for the exoticness of various places in England. It's all good.
I love it. Well, today is a bad time to pick on England. It was a rough day yesterday.
Well, hey, I hear that the team's coming home.
You're just gonna double down, huh? Just gonna double down.
It's a soccer match. That's not a rough day, Ains. It's a soccer.
No, they're coming home. I heard it all across social media.
Stop it.
Fantastic.
Our boys 150 people in the chat. Good to see you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Please hit that like button if you're enjoying it. And I've got a perfect super chat for you guys. Hit it up, Dan.
All right. You ready? Since it's the Game Awards talk, my personal pick for Game of the Year is Marvel Midnight Suns. Also, my biggest surprise of the year from Random Name with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you, man.
I'm not saying it's my number one, but Random Name is not wrong about the class that I would put Midnight Suns in right now.
Agreed.
It's craziness, man.
It's great. It's a great game.
Love it.
Super well.
I see a lot of people loving it too. You guys aren't alone by any stretch. There's a lot of people in my timeline that are playing this game and surprised by how good it is.
It's very good.
Yep, I was surprised as well. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
In Solomon we trust.
Thank you, Random Name. Appreciate you. Got a few from Don here. Let me just. Sorry, I'm trying to see what's best to go with here.
All right, we're going with that one. From Don Liner, $5 super chat. Oh, Genshin Impact added a TCG /ESO card style. I think that means you are required to play it again.
Don, I'm not even joking about this, chat. I'm going to download this after the show.
TCG is trading card game for
Xenoblade is Yeah, trading card game. Xenoblade's not getting finished. We're
You
calling
might have
it
just
here.
axed Xenoblade. You might have done.
Nice.
If you
Don,
tell me
thank
there's a
you.
decent trading card game in an MMO type game, I'm there.
Yeah. Also, Genshin is dope.
I've heard good things about Genshin.
Very good.
Don gave us a few super chats. I'm sorry, I don't know what this is referencing. I missed it. Someone tell me.
Yes, she's from New York City. Can't confirm 100% accurate. Maybe
I think
the
it's the
girl
actor.
from Forspoken. Is that?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yes.
Oh, about
actress
the
from
swearing,
Forspoken.
probably. But I think
Got
it's
you.
written into the script.
Got
I don't think she showed up at the
Yeah.
at the recording session one day.
It was all ad libbed, Hogue. They were just like, wow, this lady's got attitude.
No, it really feels like, well, the kids swear and we're going to be hip and with it. And so she swears at everything. It's like, this is the kind of thing where your mom talks. She says, I mean, maybe take it down a notch. You're an adult, but I don't know that we need to say everything's effed or effing or, I mean, and we're not talking about the junior swears here. It's just,
Yeah.
Like,
to no particular effect.
There's a stick on the floor.
You sweet summer children complaining about swearing. You have
You
not
wouldn't hear this kind of language at the Cracker Barrel is what I'm saying.
You would not.
You guys have not been playing High on Life. That much is clear.
Oh, yeah. We'll get there.
Travis,
We'll get
yeah, I have no doubt.
there. And then Don also asked.
Yeah, with the $2 super chat, what is the Bitcast holiday schedule? Christmas, New Year's Eve, etc.
So we are still working that out. So we obviously Christmas is on a Sunday, so we can tell you right now that we're not going to be doing a Christmas morning show.
No.
Never Travis
but
will show up.
I'll be there. I'm doing nothing on Christmas Day. What's up?
Travis is doing a solo Bitcast that week. But we are talking through that. We're talking through some specials. Travis and I have something funny planned as well that we're going to try and insert here over the holidays. So just bear with us, and we will share that out when we have it nailed down. But thank you.
I'm going to be
Thank you,
pre-gaming
Don.
the Michigan game, so New Year's.
Appreciate the generosity, Don. We got Detective Seeds in the house.
Yeah, with the $4.99 super chat, I thought I cussed a lot, and then I played Forspoken. Like, no
Perfect.
lie. I mean, I cuss
Perfect
so
comment.
much. I have to really watch myself on here. So
Yeah, the level here is, remember Aloy picking things up? Imagine that swearing. And now
It's like that
Forspoken.
often.
it's
It
all
is.
the time.
Very
man.
often.
Yeah, she hits a tree, and she's like, "Heffing tree, why were you standing there?" I mean, it's that bad.
I think one of the things that jumped out to me when we first showed that game was it's got this, it's trying to be like medieval, but with like an edge of modern kind of Hello Kids, like Hogue said. And I was like, this just doesn't look like it's going to play very well at all. And you guys are not inspiring confidence.
Very delicate, very expert writing it is able to accomplish what it is they're aimed at. And I big swing and a miss. Like those swings in baseball where you fall over after you miss the ball. It's that.
Fair enough. All right, Detective C, thank you. Fat Boy Horror coming at you at Michigan.
Yeah, England, about as exotic as the Michigan.
The Michigan.
The Michigan. I love
The
that.
Michigan.
I don't know.
I mean that's actually an accurate statement though. That kind of yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I concur. Also, when you talk about kind of visiting someplace exotic, generally speaking, you're not talking about whatever your biome is at home. That's
No.
kind of the nature of the definition of exotic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the nature of the definition of exotic is the higher tier of armor or weapon, but you're only allowed to equip one.
Yep, that's your destiny.
There you go.
There it is.
Got him.
Got him. Fat Boy Horror, thank you.
Ruin of destiny. Got him. Boom.
We're going to talk
Boom,
about that I
roasted.
think, a little bit. Yeah.
And Iron Keg with the $5 super chat. I know it's not on the agenda, but can we talk briefly about how awesome it was to see Hades 2? Oh, and also Ains and Travis's favorite, Death Stranding 2.
It is on the agenda.
Yeah, we are going to talk
well,
about
When
it.
he says run down of the awards, he doesn't mean just the awards. Much like Jeff Keighley, the awards are second place.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about reveals as well. Of
Second
course,
place?
so.
That's no.
Fourth?
Fourth place. Second place is Bill Clinton guy. Third place
Trailers,
is the dude on the
ads.
flute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steam Decks. And then, well, I guess one whole place has to be Christopher Judge speaking.
That was a quarter of the
God.
show, man.
That was
Yeah.
He's still going.
He actually posted on Twitter yesterday that he got cut off. That's
Yeah,
not a
Of course
joke.
he did.
Like he was angry about it almost too. Like I really wanted to thank my wife, but I got cut off. I'm like, what?
Maybe you could have rolled that into the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dramatic pauses were completely unnecessary, and I love you, man. But damn,
It's
All
all right.
right.
Man Engage was the true performance of the year anyway. We can get
Yeah.
there.
All right. Travis, what you been playing? I know you wanted to talk about something here, sir.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of stuff coming out and coming up. I've got 2 embargoes that lift tomorrow for stuff I previewed I can't talk about, and then I also have an embargo lifting tomorrow for the game I'm reviewing currently, which is High on Life, the Justin Roiland game from Squanch Games.
Squanch.
You asked for a comedy game, friend.
Squanch Games. No, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I'm not allowed to talk about it until tomorrow, but I am playing that game. If you like cursing, that makes Forspoken look like a look like a kindergartner friendly game, then you're gonna love this one. Yeah, the only other thing that lifted from embargo since last time we spoke was my review of Choo Choo Charles, which I don't think anybody here particularly cares about, but
I do.
the internet is very upset at me for that review, so that's fun.
Oh, is it out already?
I was
didn't
upset
see
because
it.
I felt there wasn't enough puns, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, so yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 10. People are upset because they think
Generous.
because it was made by one person, I should have been nicer to it.
Oh,
but
is
that's-
that where
it's-
I saw you
yeah.
preaching about that, and I was like, what has driven this all of a sudden?
Yeah. I was just getting a ton of people hitting me up and being like, "Wow, how dare you give a negative review to a single person who made a game as part of a school project?" And I was like, "Well, that's nice, but it
It's
doesn't."
a game for sale.
Yeah, it's a game for sale, and I was evaluating it like you would any other game. So
Yep.
I don't know what to tell you guys.
Excuses. It's always excuses with the internet.
I
I don't
just
care
love-
if it was made in a pandemic, if it turned out like crap.
Yeah, I just love the idea that like if you paid less money for it, or if it was made by one person, that when you're playing it, you have more fun for some reason. You're like, oh well, now that my expectations are different, I'm just having like a better time. It's like no, it's
It's like being on Game Pass. Oh, well,
Yeah.
it's on Game Pass. It's
It's like Game
free,
Pass.
so it's like
I mean, accessibility is cool. It's cool that
It's great.
It's great that one person can make a video game. That's awesome, but it doesn't make the game better. Yeah. So anyway, I've been fighting that fight, but yeah, you shouldn't play Choo Choo Charles, and I'll be able to talk about High on Life next week. I'm gonna finish the game today, and yeah, all I can say about it is that I'm playing it, and it's a comedy game. I love comedy games. I also don't particularly care how raunchy or curse-filled the game is, generally speaking. It's got that Borderlands feel. So
I'm just saying that grossness and raunch does not make something funny in and of itself, and I think Justin
True.
Roiland sometimes gets confused about that.
I would agree. Yeah, he doesn't always hit the mark, but you know, if I just got done playing a quote comedy game that was horrifyingly not funny, so I'm it's been a nice, let's just say it's been nice to have a professional in the room with this one. So that's all I'll say. He is a comedian, so you can at least, you know, not all of his jokes are going to land, and it is very sophomoric, but that's, you know, that's kind of the style, right? It's like a little bit of like,
It's not where I live, friend.
yeah, sure, but you know, it's not for everyone, as any game is not for anyone or for everyone.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that one. I know there's at least an audience that's excited about that game, and it releases Tuesday.
I think I just saw the 2-day.
Yeah, it releases
warning
Tuesday. Embargo lifts Monday. You probably will not see a review for it tomorrow because every outlet got their codes Friday at 7 p.m. And so I've only had the game for, you know, less than 2 days. So yeah, it's I think this happens a lot where they go, we're gonna have the code to you by this day, and then they do it like by this week, and then by the last possible moment on that week they put it out because they're, you know, patching it up until the last minute, rolling out patches. So that's not terribly uncommon for review codes.
Yeah, so well, it'd be interesting, right? If some review does pop up first thing on Monday, be like, you know how that goes.
You could beat it. It's not like the longest game in the world, but yeah. But for me, I have to do a video and stuff. There's just no way.
Yeah.
We have my editor. We have to do a whole bunch of our process is long.
Yeah. All right. Don, one more super chat before we move on here.
Forspoken MC is from NYC, not what's that say? An accurate
So
portrayal.
this is the main character, not the actress. So it's an
Not
accurate
actress.
portrayal of a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I got you.
Damn, Don. Appreciate you. Don coming out firing this morning.
All over the place.
I like to respect New Yorkers more than that. I feel like they're more pointed with their swearing. But go try
Absolutely.
Forspoken.
I thought you hated all
Absolutely.
coastal elites.
What? No, definitely not. Just you try.
Okay.
All right, let's real quick note before we move to the Game Awards is I didn't realize that the Dragon Age Absolution, the Netflix anime, is out. I didn't realize that had released. Has anyone checked it out yet?
Nope.
Okay. Does anyone have any interest, or is it just me?
Nope. Nope.
What was it?
I love Dragon Age. Yeah.
The Dragon Age.
Oh yeah, no, I
Netflix.
need to watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I just haven't had time.
No.
Okay. All right. Anyway, yeah, that is out. So I missed it. If anyone else missed it, there you go. It's out on Netflix now. All right, let's move over to the Game Awards because I know we've got a lot to talk about on this one. So we're going to be talking about kind of overall thoughts, a couple questions on it, the game reveals, and we're going to break down most of the big winners. Obviously, not every single category, but most of the ones we want to discuss and or debate. So the first thing, before we get to individual awards, announcements, etc., just want to ask you guys what you thought about the overall pacing, the overall presentation, the kind of 2.5 hour with a half hour pre-show. That's the short version. What do you guys think about the 2022 show overall?
Way too much drunk, high, or over the hill acting. Way too many actors. Way too many that had the worst segments of the entire show. Whether it's Al Pacino, Marsden, the Last of Us people coming in. I hate it every time. I continue to hate it. Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards is looking for some kind of street cred from bringing in actors. They get actors that have no idea where they are and what their agent signed them up for. And we get an extra 40 minutes of show based on nothing. That's the thing that jumps out at me.
I think Jeff Keighley loves name dropping. I think that's like his favorite thing in the world. And when he can like bring somebody on stage and prove that he knows someone famous, it like gets him off. I don't know, man. It was that definitely was the weirdest part of the game of all the Game Awards is all the name dropping. And like, I hate it when the industry tries to vindicate itself to be, oh, we're legitimate. We're legitimizing ourselves because we have an actor. And I'm just like, yo, that's like the least legitimate thing you could do is try to look to another industry and go, look, see, we're real. We count. And you do count. It's not in dispute. The best thing you could do is to just ignore all that stuff, the legacy media that you're better than, and not look back. And I really hate this stuff.
You look insecure. Yeah. No franchise, brand, or property has ever made itself more popular or more believable by including a reference to Rian Johnson. None.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say even the Rian Johnson appearance, even though he's awesome, is he's awesome. But
can you actually remember what it was connected to? Like, I don't even remember what it was connected to.
They were doing a Glass Onion. Oh, it was Among Us. They did an Among Us Glass Onion.
It was the Among Us outfit.
Because Glass Onion is featured, or Among Us is featured in Glass Onion. It's kind
literally I could not remember it just now.
Yeah,
no.
Like I know Al Pacino comes in to nominate performance, which is somewhat hilarious given his, but I couldn't remember why all the actors were there.
He's a good actor,
Al Pacino.
Yeah,
he was literally getting his check handed to him as he was walking off stage. They were like, "Oh, here you go, buddy. Thanks for coming. I know you."
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Al Pacino was a good actor. Maybe is a good actor if motivated. He was not motivated.
Oh, yeah.
This is what you get. You get Joel McHale rolling his eyes the entire show, Jeff. Correct course.
Yeah, it's bad news, man.
I feel strongly about this.
It wasn't. Yeah, I would say the worst part about the show is the show. The content is usually good. The trailers reveals. It's nice to see everybody in the same room. I like in-person industry events. All that stuff is great. The actual show, though, of like, here's how they do the awards, and they speed through a bunch that they consider not important, and then none of those people get to go on stage, and then the ones that they do consider important get to talk for 20 minutes, and then it's just a very poorly managed show. Even though I feel like they have a lot of good content to work with, like it could be a great show. It's not like they're filling time, or it's just the pacing is off. The decisions they make for how they do things is bad. And it also just feels tacky and sponsored. Like every segment is sponsored by like Oreos or Baja Blast. And I'm just like, yo, like Really? Like, are you fundraising? Is this a
Yes. The answer, by the way, is yes.
Yeah. Are we gonna
but
get the thermometer in the background that's filling up with dollars? Those things.
Free Game Awards tote bags. No, I find that the most off-putting when it's ostensibly something that is, socially aware. I think like the Future Class being nominated by Old Spice is insane. Like that shouldn't have a sponsor at all. The various things that pop up in the kind of, these are the good things we're doing as a gaming industry or whatever, is like, Jeff, I know this costs money. I know this is fundraising across the board, but no, I think that was bad. And I think, Travis, you hit on something that is so important, because we joke about Judge's speech because it was ridiculous. But here I am sitting there going, well, this is going to be a 6-hour show, because they're like, the slot must be 10 minutes at least before we turn on the orchestra. And then there's later speeches that are like literally about video games to developer. And I swear to God, it's on a 20-second button. And I'm like, you cannot do that. You can't do that. You go however you go, but you can't start picking choices on speech times based on what you think is valuable.
Big time. Yeah, in fact, Doug Bowser, literally the president of Nintendo of America, got the music like 20 seconds after he started talking. And
it was playing as he was walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
It was bad, man.
And what that screams to me is that as Judge went on, they didn't have a plan to limit speeches. They realized they needed something quickly. They probably raced behind the scenes to get music playing 15 minutes into Judge's speech, and then said, we got to catch up now on time.
I agree, but that's a no. That's my first event. This is Jeff's 10th year of this?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. So I think what you guys commented on there is a bigger issue in the show itself, as we're going to talk about, in terms of just the nominations and what games are kind of highlighted, right? There's a clear miss on aspects of the industry here. So
can I know we're going to get into that, but can I give a positive comment? Because I actually thought, and I said this on social media again, IGN put out its own list, and it had a much better version of breadth. And Travis knows, I'm not always kind to IGN in the way they operate on social media. I thought they did a good job with having a list that includes things like Marvel Snap and Immortality, and like showing that there's not just third-person over-the-shoulder action adventures or over-the-cat shoulder action adventures that are available in the video game industry. There's a problem with the process, because IGN's a big source and they don't make this mistake. And I don't think any given outlet is going to make the mistake of missing on the breadth of the industry. There's a problem with the process of aggregating across all these things that winds up with the lowest common denominator popular big budget game. And that is not the way to evaluate an industry, period.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Agreed. I mean, I kind of just laugh at the awards. To me, they don't matter, because I think it's just sort of frivolous, and it's aggregated opinions. It's like trusting an award process, unless it's a group of people that you really trust, is basically just looking to Metacritic and going, okay, what were the most popular games? Who had the most players in the industry? Like, what were the biggest games? And just putting those all on a list and then having people vote. Like, it's not really a process I'd consider like legitimate in any way. There's also no transparency on what actually qualifies someone for some of these. Like, I don't know what art direction means, really. I mean, I have a vague understanding. In the past, I think they've had things like best direction in a game or something like that.
Yeah, best director. Elden Ring won best director.
They still do. Yeah.
Best director. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a development blind spot of mine, but even game of the year. I mean, game of the year, what makes it game of the year? Is it its uniqueness? Is it just people liked it? There's way too many qualifiers for that one. So I mean, I give the show like a C-, maybe a D+. It was sort of like a, we got some cool reveals. I mean, the Hades 2 made my night. Star Wars was fantastic. What
did they show? Here's where I think they missed a perfect opportunity to have a cam on Phil Spencer's face the entire night, because that was the most amazing shot when they pan to him and he's just like, get the camera off me. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
And they should have just had one on there where you could just like click over and go to like the fill cam. And then
Phil Cam.
and then just after that, I mean, you could have literally just put Jeff Keighley's like white shoes up there and just put a microphone in front of him and like had somebody, speak. That would have been at least entertaining. Or like Troy Baker's hat, on a stand with a mic in front of it. And that's at least that's fun, right?
I do respect that Troy Baker is always everywhere. Troy
God, he's
Baker.
everywhere.
We can
Yes.
depend on Troy Baker being Troy Baker and all that entails.
Yes, 100%. Man, but it was fine. I like the reveals are always what I look for. I don't care about the awards. It's just I want to see the new stuff. There was quite a bit of it, I thought, and otherwise, it's the giant ad for whatever it is, Capri Sun, Samsung. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, right? Is they try to walk this line between, you bring someone like Al Pacino out, and I think Travis nailed it. Like, Jeff loves nothing more in this world than being able to say that he knows someone or has talked to someone, or it's a clout thing. And it feels like this weird mix of trying to be a legitimate show mixed with old video game
having Animal
tropes.
on there.
Yeah, and it just doesn't do a lot for me in that vein.
No.
Yeah, but anyway, let me ask this before we get started too, because I saw a lot of chatter from the Xbox community here. You guys think it was a mistake for Xbox to kind of be absent here, to not show at least one major thing?
Train
Yep.
wreck.
Stupid. Completely. It's a slap in the face to Xbox gamers. I think that some people in media were claiming it was a decision to show things at the right time and that sort of thing, but I don't think that's a good excuse. And I think when you're at this big industry event that everybody else is showing up for, you show up. I have the same criticism about PlayStation, skipping out on E3 a lot these days, is that it hurts your brand. It sort of goes against, the camaraderie of the industry, which I think is kind of important. People sitting together. I know that word is kind of dead now, especially for
Get
Sony.
ready for a shooting war, folks.
I know it's really bad. But I think, you can criticize PlayStation for that when we get to E3 season, which I'm sure we will. But you have to call out Xbox, that the fact that they showed nothing. Dude, they could have even shown High on Life. That game came out it comes out a few days after the award show. It's like less than a week later, 5 days.
I think there's a clip of it in their Game Pass ad, I think.
Yeah, there was a Game Pass ad.
Just to be clear, because I see people saying they showed other games, and it's like, well, they showed Replaced, so we got to see that again. That's fine. They had a Game Pass ad. But Atomic Heart is not Xbox. That's just coming to Game Pass.
They offered nothing off of their first party, and so I talked to my
first
friend
party. Yes, thank you. First party is the easier way to say.
Yeah, at the Microsoft Theater, mind you. This was
Microsoft Theater, and they showed up. I don't know what Phil was doing in that seat. Was he just there did he really like Ragnarok? I don't know. It was it was kind of embarrassing, I think, for them to even show up to that show if they weren't going to participate in any way.
Well, and if people forget, they have an E3 promise. Now, I think this might go by the wayside, but they have a promise that Redfall and Starfield are coming out before June.
And
so, I mean, you're within a 6-month window.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's not forget, it's not like Xbox hasn't shown up big at the Game Awards. They debuted the Series X at the Game Awards 2 years ago.
Yeah, whatever.
So I think they're.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it was. Actually, I forget what the code name was now. It's so far that time disappears. But I think there was a lot of expectation, and a lot of people I talked to, including the big Xbox creators, that had high expectations for something to be showed in the vein of Avowed or Fable or Hellblade. I mean, I don't think they had to show like 5 things, right? But at least have something.
Starfield comes out in like 2 months or something, doesn't it? I mean, it's not.
Starfield is not coming out first.
Doesn't have a date.
Dan, I want to take you aside here, Dan.
Was it a first quarter
Starfield
thing?
is not coming out in the first half of 2023.
All they've said is first half of 2023.
Yeah, that was the promise in E3.
At all.
Right? Remember at E3, their promise was everything was supposed to be out that we're going to talk about before the next E3.
But they don't have anything.
Not going to happen. They have Redfall.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
I think there's a chance Starfield makes it in right at the end, like somewhere in June. I think.
Well, what's funny about that is June is eligible, right? We got a bunch of big reveals for June at Game Awards. We got Diablo 4, we got Final Fantasy 16. So June is a month that reasonable publishers were looking at as, yes, this is the thing. This is a place where we say this, which of course makes sense. There's no show between here and June. So you're depending on a state of play or a Nintendo Direct or whatever. And maybe that's fine. But you could see that the other publishers were saying June is, if we got something coming out in June, this is where we talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the whole thing was, I mean, that specific aspect, I think, was pretty disappointing, because we've been waiting, and and then it's just nothing every time, and it's
no, and
like,
then they come out on social media. They come out on social media and say, we know you're upset. We know you're upset about this, but we got to wait for the right time. It's like, guys, you have pulled on this particular lever for 3 years. You're gonna have to deliver some actual things.
Right, man.
It's not that Xbox didn't put out anything this year, right? Like, one of my favorite games this year is Grounded. It's a fantastic game. They had Pentiment. They've had good stuff come out. It's really just that
you named everything they released.
Not exactly, but
I can appreciate the not exactly. I'd have to think about it.
But I think the problem is that they if you don't feel like you're a part of the conversation, a part of the industry, that's a problem. And you didn't have any game award, you didn't get nominated for anything, right? So you're already on your back heel there. So if you didn't get nominated for anything, maybe you show up in some other way. And it just, I don't know. We don't know the background. Maybe Xbox tried to show stuff, and Keighley wasn't having it. He had other stuff he wanted to show. I don't know any of the answers there, but the argument I've seen online that they were trying to appear weak for the FTC is, I think, a terrible argument. If they were trying to do that, congrats. You look like you aren't a great publisher. You look completely irrelevant in the industry. So
let me rant.
It's a very please. I'll just, before you go, it's a very ridiculous argument. You may touch on this, Hogue, because all of the stuff that we were hoping to see, they've already shown. We already know it's coming. Like, we saw it in June. Just give us an update on one of these big titles. Hogue, get them.
Nobody would do this. B, the plans were in place for whatever they were going to show at the Game Awards, well before the FTC sues them that day, right? And regardless of whether you think the FTC chose that day or not, it was ironic that they chose that day. C, understand the arguments the FTC has is that Microsoft is going to do bad things for the industry. If you are going to present out in public that you're going to suck up 34 developers and do jack shit with them, that's not a great look for you in a regulatory environment, okay? It's not. And Phil Spencer isn't a moron. So I believe that Redfall and Starfield are legitimately the only things that are close to release, and they don't feel comfortable committing to a release date, which is its own bit of scariness. But that's what I think, is that everybody else, I said that the other publishers were putting out June dates. I don't think that Xbox feels certain that they can make a promise of that date. And after the horrific catastrophe that was Halo Infinite in terms of its release structure, I know you love Halo.
Release structure?
Well, that it was supposed to be at the launch of the Xbox Series X and S. That failed, but they showed it and it died. And then you have a year later and it's not fully complete. Now we have 2 years after the original release, and I think Ains would tell you that it's fantastic now. I'm not going to fight him. But that history of release structures puts Xbox in a box, because they promised Starfield was November 11th. They missed. They promised Halo was at launch on Series X. They missed. They made a promise at E3 that these games that we're talking about are all going to be released before the next E3, and things are looking dicey. And they are, I think, rightly thinking that they can't go and advertise anything that has a date on it without getting absolutely pilloried if they miss it. I just don't think that they're confident that they're going to hit any dates for Redfall and Starfield, which I would love to say is wrong, right? I'm on my channel. People call me an Xbot because I'm telling you why I think the FTC's argument is weak. It is not because I think Xbox is necessarily an awesome steward of their products. I hope that they are. I hope that they will become such. But no, they did not avoid the Game Awards for any reason related to the FTC.
Agreed.
I'm done.
Agreed.
And I will say, I talked to an Xbox employee who I'm close with, who is on, he's in the inner circle of that team. He knows what's going on with their studios and games. And I just said, yo, what happened? Like, where were you guys? Like, nothing. And his answer was just like, honestly, it just didn't come together. None of our games were ready. We didn't have any stuff ready to go. And I was just like, all right, Well, good luck to you, man. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a miss, and I think everybody on their team knows that it's a miss, and they knew that the miss was coming, and they were just sort of like, "Hey, what are we gonna do?" Couldn't get it together in time for the show.
I know other people have said it, and I'm not going to be the first to say this, but other people have said, well, like to your point, that the response was it wasn't the right time or we weren't ready. And it's like, this is the industry show that has tens of millions of viewers. And more importantly to me, and you guys tell me if you disagree, this is an industry show where it's platform kind of agnostic, right? So you've got people watching this that aren't necessarily into video games, that aren't necessarily Xbox fans, etc. These are the people you're trying to reach by broadening your brand. This is the show you want to show up at. I guess my example is Xbox had a great, has done very well in their summer show the last couple of years. I think we were generally agreed on that. They've shown a good summer show, which is great, right? But it's an Xbox show. And for people like us who love Xbox, play it, etc., it's a great show. But the diehard Nintendo fan or the diehard person who plays mobile games isn't necessarily watching that because it's an Xbox show. They might be watching the Game Awards because it's a Game Award show that reaches a much broader audience. Why would you not try to push your Xbox brand at that show? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's your one chance to get outside of your echo chamber and the bubble.
Yeah,
people
exactly.
already play Xbox and talk to other. Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I think somebody pointed out that As Dusk Fall ones, which I mean that's fine. It's not first party, but I guess that counts as an.
Again, Game Pass doesn't. We're talking first party. They're studios.
Yeah.
Man.
Anyway, okay. We'll move on for that. We got some super chats to get to.
We violently agree, right? Big mistake.
Yeah, we all agree. Yeah. By the way, 194 people live in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming out and hanging out.
That's crazy.
With us.
We can cross 200 viewers if you would be so kind as to hit the like button and let YouTube know that we're broadcasting live right now. YouTube loves that kind of stuff. And also, if you think YouTube doesn't like that kind of stuff and you want to show YouTube up and you just hate YouTube, they hate it when you hit that like button and tell people to find things they don't like. Either way, that like button is the answer.
I like it. Let's hit these super chats up and then we're going to get to our reveals.
Yeah. All right. Don Liner from New York, Long Island, like Colin. So I can say those things. Absolution is amazing. 10 out of 10.
Sweet.
Please watch.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Please watch to help get a season 2. I may be Dragon Age super fan, own all the books, comics, and a Morgan statue.
I will never blame you, Don, for owning a Morgan statue.
I will.
Nobody will.
Bravo.
Nope. Is that?
I will. I'll blame you.
That's a witch.
That's that old Capcom fighting game, Morgan.
No, wrong Morgan.
Different Morgan. It's Claudia Black's Morgan.
Travis.
There's many reasons that one could have a Morgan statue. I'm just saying you don't have to be a Dragon Age fan necessarily.
Yeah. That's also true. Yeah.
Why
are you blaming him for a Morgan statue? I'm going to mute you.
I blame everyone who owns a statue. I don't like items that have no function.
And I blame everyone that owns a statue. So there we go.
Don't go to Ainsley's house.
Has no function. It's just
has no
ornament.
function.
Why would you do that?
The Master Chief helmet behind you has no function. Neither do your Destiny posters. Neither do anything in your house.
That is one of the few items I own with no function because it was, we were moving out of the IGN office and they were like, Travis, take this.
Yeah, you were forced upon it. It was forced upon you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I hate stuff like that. Knickknacks and just no art on my walls, nothing.
You have no joy. It's okay.
It's
I don't.
that he's giving this speech in front of his background. You're absolutely
I know.
This is the one wall.
It's distilled Travis.
Like literally, when we started doing shows from home when COVID hit, and I was on Fireteam Chat, they were like, "Travis, you have to have something. You can't just do blank wall." And I was like, "All right, fine." So I had Bungie sent me all these photos. Like this is every decorative item I have in my house, just on one wall to make it look like I'm a normal human.
I want to imagine that you just look off camera, you walk into the next room, it's like the white box challenge on HGTV or something. Yeah.
Everything's like just very just sterile and clean.
Hopefully his wife will, bring some joy into his heart.
Looks
she
like
tries.
Wonka vision. Yeah,
she tries. I try to contain it to the back of the house or whatever.
Don, thank you for the super chats today, man. Appreciate you. Take the seats back.
Yeah, with the $4.99 super chat. Hi, I'm Al Pacino. Welcome to Cracker Barrel. Sorry. I can't see the teleprompter. Where am I? Yeah.
I felt. I mean, we all love it. We grew up with Al Pacino, right? Like, I mean, he's an icon. But
nobody doesn't like. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I mean, what happened there? Like, he didn't. Yeah, that's a shame.
It is.
Anyway, painful discourse.
Yeah. There
No.
are rumblings of an Xbox event
No.
in January.
I'm sure there
No.
are rumblings.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
always
disagree.
rumblings.
There-
In
there are-
general, Xbox lives on rumblings that we're going to do better next year. They're the Detroit Lions right now of marketing video games.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had one good year.
I've never even seen an event in January. I don't even remember. Like, it's a weird month.
It's not going to happen.
Well, Microsoft also does weird events, right? Because
Yeah.
Microsoft, big company, will like slide in a gaming segment for their Windows update video. I mean, like, there's all sorts of weird stuff that they do.
They're all over
Yeah,
the place.
fair.
I could see them
No.
doing a Starfield specific event to get ahead of that. Maybe
I hope-
also for Redfall.
I hope
I
so.
hope they're all around a table speaking very seriously about the game. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, it'll probably
Thank
be
you.
Todd Howard in a
Thank you,
leather
people
jacket
listeners.
being like, look how awesome this game is. But that's not, that's not different than what Bethesda used to do. I could see them, getting to do that since this game is presumably supposed to be here before.
My current bet is 11-11-23.
I think that's a fair guess. I think it is also equally likely that it comes out like the week of or week after E3, and that they include the Starfield blowout in like their E3 presentation.
They
and then
shadow
they'll put
dropped
up,
Starfield.
No, they'll. I mean,
It's out now.
yeah,
Dude, that'd
yeah,
be-
that would be
that
amazing.
insane.
That'd be
That'd be
amazing.
Good decision, but yeah.
We promised it before E3. We missed because we're going to do it at E3. Play it now.
That'd be awesome. I would love that. I think that'd be hilarious. All right, boys. So we got let's talk reveals. So we got a lot of reveals for new projects, and I quickly threw together a list while you guys were talking of kind of the big ones. So Hades 2 was a big one, I think unexpected. I know a lot of people, especially in the seasoned gaming arena, our contributors literally adore Hades. It is one of their favorite games of all time. So
I
this was
know
a
I'm
big
not
one.
known for this. Can I add a smidgen of negativity on this announcement?
Of course, I would expect no less, Hogue.
Yeah, I know I'm always the most positive one on the stream. The one bit of negativity, because I'm excited for Hades 2. I'm going to play Hades 2. I love Hades. I actually really like it when I see Supergiant's like next thing. And I do feel like, we're not going to get that for more years now. Like, I like their weird stuff. I like Pyre. I like them going to the next world.
Is it
and Hades
Bastion,
2,
right?
Yeah, a sequel is like, oh, well, all right. I mean, we know what your tone is going to be. We know what you're going to try to achieve with this. It will be good. But I kind of like them going and building worlds and doing weird things. And we're not going to get that, I think, for, one extra iteration of their games. So it's all good. I would have followed up on Hades 2 if I were the businessman there.
I think they have multiple teams at this point. I think they're
Okay.
probably working on multiple things at once, which is the way you grow the business, right? You find something that works, you make a sequel to that, and then you use it to fund something new and try to get a second hit. But yeah, I mean, you're right that the smart move business wise is to make Hades 2, and I personally am extremely excited for it. It looks really cool. I'm excited to see how they make a sequel make sense in that world and all the new characters they're gonna have to introduce.
Yeah.
It seems like they're just sort of like swapping out some of the mythos, and I mean, there's a way to do that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I'm excited. My favorite dating sim.
You and the dating sims, the combat, like they briefly show kind of the combat and stuff, and I mean it very clearly looks similar. To your point, I'm kind of curious what they define as a sequel here. What's actually going to separate it from being the original Hades and how they drive that forward. So I'm interested in it.
It'll be good. Hades is awesome. But yeah.
The one thing I know, we just crossed 200 live. Thank you very much, everyone. Great to have you with us today. Love
you
it.
have the power to put YouTube down. Go for it.
The one thing when they announced it, I was thinking to myself, the first thing that popped in my head, Travis, was, oh God, Travis is going to cringe at that. And that is, it's coming to early access so that you can help design the game with them.
No, but to be clear, that's how Hades was built.
I know.
So Supergiant has done that.
I know.
And Hades was worse before they went through this process. They're basically two companies I really like for this right now, and it's Supergiant, and it's the I never remember how to pronounce their name correctly. It's the folks behind like Don't Starve that I thought used it very well. Clay, so there's early access can work for these companies. It's just a very
100%.
specific kind of way.
100%.
Yeah, they have to manage it well, right?
I don't know if you need it for a sequel of a game that's super. I don't know. Does it work for your second iteration where everybody said you nailed the?
If you're trying to do anything new,
I hope they do that. I mean that's actually the thing that makes me cringe about sequels in general is when something's really unique and you get a sequel and you're kind of like, does that make sense? Death Stranding 2. Great example of that. Another one where you're kind of like, sequel? I don't know.
Yeah, again, I love Death Stranding to death. And I think I was actually texting with you guys during the award show. I'm like, oh man, Death Stranding ended perfectly. And it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing with a sequel? We know how beloved franchise can be hurt by sequels at this point in our lives. So we have to watch that very carefully.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys, and we can jump to Death Stranding 2 next because I didn't play it. Wasn't the game for me, but I know Dan and Hogue, you both loved it. How did this trailer hit for you?
I would say the same thing as he did. There's really no reason for it to exist. I think we could have. The Kojima is, to me, like you've always said, and he's kind of like the more, he'd be a really good director of movies, doing something to that effect. The gameplay wasn't like the part in Death Stranding that really, made me enjoy it as much as
I'll say.
People call it a walking sim. It's not, but it's also, it's not something that I think you can do a sequel to and it still be super, super interesting. I just don't, I don't know. I'm weary on it, but it's
weary or wary?
Wary, I guess.
Okay.
Yes.
You're cautious.
Wary.
I wasn't sure if it was making you sleepy.
I'm also sleepy
because I also fell asleep during Death Stranding quite a number of times. That game made me weary, not wary.
Go back to your dating sims.
Yes,
I will. Dating sims are great. Don't hate on my genre.
Yeah, we'll see what
I was
happens.
going to go back and see how many times Kojima's name appeared from the beginning to the end of that segment, and I swear it's more than 10.
I can see 4 in my head. So.
Oh, there were 4 on the final screen. Never mind leading up to it. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a great time to announce whatever Kojima's working on with Xbox that's going to come out in 2032.
People thought that was coming. People thought that.
I know, man. That was one. I thought maybe we'd get a logo or some bullshit CGI trailer that tells you nothing about the game, like we got for Death Stranding for 9 years before it came out or whatever. But yeah, it's.
I honestly, I don't know how real we're supposed to feel about Kojima times Xbox as a project. I mean, Death Stranding 2 is a big freaking endeavor. So I don't know. And we, by the way, we knew Death Stranding 2 for a while because Mr. Walking Dead can't keep his mouth shut. So we knew this was in process for years.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm gonna throw something out there, and you guys can either yell at me or agree with me. But I've ranted before, as says Dan, I know, but I've ranted before about the kind of respect that Kojima gets in this industry. I think we need to move that respect to the person that actually deserves it and start recognizing Miyazaki for who he is. He needs the level of hype that Kojima
He's already been there.
Hold on. Why?
No, he has not.
Why do you bring? Okay, yes, Miyazaki is one of the known folks, Ains, but why do you bring Kojima down to say that? What is it?
Because
the person that
Kojima
really
doesn't deserve it.
The
Miyazaki does.
Really deserves it.
It's Miyazaki. Yeah.
No.
They both deserve it. They both have an incredible pedigree of games, but
one has an incredible pedigree of games.
Right, but Kojima has been around longer, so Miyazaki can get up there, Ains.
Yeah. Also,
Miyazaki against Kojima every day.
Miyazaki has successfully made basically one game. Like it's just one game iterated like 5 different times, but Kojima, like he's got breadth, dude. Like he's made so many different types of games over his career. It's impressive stuff. And this is coming from a guy who Death Stranding was not the game for me, but like Metal Gear Solid 5, loved it. It's just, everybody has misses, lest we forget.
Miyazaki has no misses, sir.
Bloodborne. But yeah.
Oh, that's great.
He has no misses. That's where you want to die.
Go ahead, look it up. He has no misses. All right, I'm just, I'm messing around. All right, my favorite reveal of the show, Judas from finally
I'm excited.
Ghost Story Games, Ken Levine's new studio. He made very, very clear that he is the creator of BioShock, and the game looks like BioShock.
Yeah.
But it looks. I'm hugely excited for this. As Dan, I'll let you preach too. But BioShock's one of my favorite games of all time, and they've been working on this for a long time now. So I really hope it delivers. But the trailer was incredible to me.
I agree. I think it would have been better if he put from the creator of BioShock, but not BioShock 2. It would give him kind of a little bit more.
Though. The card was from the creator of BioShock and BioShock Infinite or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's noticeable enough.
Not 2. We didn't
Well,
do
we
2.
knew.
And I love
We
2.
knew.
Don't get me wrong. I love
We knew
it.
what he was going to make, right? Like, this is the
Yeah.
sort of game he makes.
I wish it wasn't.
100%.
I wish it wasn't.
I mean, what else could he make? That's the problem.
He's a human being. He's capable of
I'm not
making
sure he is.
He's an artist.
Well, it goes back to what we said about Kojima and Miyazaki. They specialize in
I hate
one
the
type of
man.
thing.
Miyazaki,
He's an arrogant piece of garbage. Super
Kojima
far
does
up his
too.
butt. Yeah, they both are. Yeah, I'm not. No, get me wrong.
Oh, you're talking about Ken Levine, not Miyazaki.
no idea who we're
Ken
talking
Levine. Ken Levine. Very far up his butt. He's very pretentious, but you know what? He does a good job.
Is
Some
he?
people-
I don't know that I've seen the pretentious side. Granted, I don't
Just
know
follow him on
celebrities or anything about him, but I reviewed
Hoax
BioShock. I reviewed BioShock the remastered ones where
Yes.
in BioShock 1 you found reels that linked to a documentary, and it was like a 40-minute documentary that they did over like 5-minute sections. You have to like go and find all of the reels, and then you watch like a clip of it. And in that, I just remember Ken Levine being like, yeah, we were basically just throwing crap at the wall and we got super lucky. And like it was kind of like the most humble take on why BioShock was successful ever. It was like them describing the comedy of errors where, well, we wanted to be in space, but we didn't have the tech to do the draw distance right. So we thought, oh, we'll be underwater and things will be murky because you can't see far away. Like every like step of it, they were just like, we were honestly just like rolling with the punches and seeing if we could make a game, and this is what came out of it, and people loved it. And I was cracking up watching the documentary because I was like, wow, they basically just lucked their way through BioShock existing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know the guy, but that documentary definitely endeared me to him. It's pretty down to earth.
I know
Amazing.
Hogue loves him. I don't want to speak for him, but I know that.
He's actually one of the few kind of high-level named people in the game industry that I've had a somewhat substantial conversation with. So he gave a keynote address to where my brother graduated from essentially game development school.
Awesome.
So I was able to chat with him. I think this would have been before Infinite. It would have been after BioShock, before Infinite. And I was able to chat with him about what the message was he was trying to convey in Rapture and things along those lines. And I think Travis, he feels very highly about himself. Okay. I think you should if you deliver creative products that have that level of success. But I wasn't satisfied with his answers in terms of the thoughts going into what he was presenting as symbology and things in Rapture and the commentary. But that's okay. Reasonable minds can differ on this type of stuff. Again, we call out Troy Baker, we call out whatever, Neil Druckmann, Ken Levine. There is a certain Hideo Kojima, Miyazaki. There's a certain amount of belief in self that is required to put yourself out there in products.
For sure.
And I think that that's going to be self-selecting in certain ways. And I think it's important to remember that because we are all benefited by folks willing to throw themselves out there on this type of stuff. So I think there's a certain amount of natural egotism from that role. But I didn't find Ken Levine to be any more or less than the other folks that are operating in these industries.
For sure.
Yeah.
Fair point. Yeah. Fair point.
He came off very well in that documentary. That's all I'll say. By the way, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it on YouTube in its entirety. It's super funny. Like just all the low budget decisions they made, like how they couldn't afford to build a model for the nurse lady in that point. It's just so she's behind glass, and it's just they were like, oh, we'll just put a splicer and we'll cast her in shadow and we'll be like, people might think it's noir, you know what I mean? Like just all the stuff that they did in that game, it just cracked me up every step of the way. So
that's what I love.
That actually matches with the answers and the questions I was giving him about Randian objectivism and various capitalistic tendencies.
Well,
It's this very superficial kind of like thought it would be a cool vibe type thing. It's like, all right, great.
Basically, yeah. He I think he had just read Atlas Shrugged, and he was like, well, what kind of world would someone like that build? And then kind of just wanted it to be a space station and ended up underwater because they didn't have the budget for space.
The designer of System Shock 2 wanted a space station. This is a surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
yeah, I don't know. The game creation is fascinating to me, so I just like it when you get to see like how
that's exactly what I was just gonna say, Travis. Like, I love hearing how games are created because there's so many crazy stories and so many things that they do to that the audience never knows about, which is amazing. All right. So speaking of From Software, we got Armored Core 6. We knew this was coming. This leaked a little while earlier this year. But we did get the official trailer, a fantastic trailer, by the way, for Armored Core 6 Rise of the Rubicon from Software coming in 2023. This is not being directed by Miyazaki, but someone else in the studio. I forget his name now, but pretty exciting to see Armored Core coming back big and bold.
Now, again, with Miyazaki, I mean, would you say his early Armored Cores were not misses?
No,
I was gonna say Armored Core is a pretty beloved IP. I'm not a huge
not all of them are
good.
Not all of them are
Sure,
good. He has
what
misses.
I've heard.
He has misses. That's definitely
he did. I was 2000 Armored Cores, right?
They made. I think there's 4 of them.
I don't know if he did all of them or not, Hogue. I don't know.
He didn't do all of them. One of them is somebody else, but he worked on some of them, and not all of them are good.
Thank you, Ash, in the chat. It's the director of Sekiro is directing Armored Core 6.
Okay,
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's doing something else, I gotta imagine.
Well, they've got Elden Ring expansions coming, so they do have more content for Elden Ring, and he said on stage he has ideas for stuff beyond Elden Ring that they're working on. So who knows? We got Final Fantasy 16, Hogue's game of 2023, coming in hot. We got a new trailer for this. This trailer confused me even more than what this game is attempting to be in the Final Fantasy realm. But anyway, what'd you think?
Oh, after the solidification of the rated M for matures and the PEGI 18 pluses and everything else on Final Fantasy 16, the action fighting extravaganza. Yeah. I have no idea. That trailer did less than nothing for me. Let me say this. Let's start with positives. At least in trailer form, it looks fantastic. I mean, like they're not working in Luminous Engine, which you can tell immediately, and it looks good. So I mean, I think that's worthwhile. I've not seen any Final Fantasy go through whatever it is now, 6 trailers, 7 trailers, and really not talk about anything to invest you in their world. Right? They have the one that kind of goes through the kingdoms, like superficially, like very high level.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are more like this one that they put on the Game Awards, which is like, look at us hitting things, look at big things hitting things, look at other big things being called in to hit things, and get excited. It's like, okay.
Yeah. The Kingdom one that they initially showed is what raised my level of interest, because I prefer that approach for Final Fantasy, because I like the older school Final Fantasies where you've got these kingdoms at war and kind of the fantasy aspect of it. But since then, it seems to be all over the place. And I don't know. I've pre-ordered it because you get 2 steelbooks, and then you put 2 steelbooks out, and I'm going to order your game. I mean,
what
it
doesn't
doesn't
really
matter
what
it is.
For one game, I don't understand this collector process.
Oh, I got 2 Elden Ring ones right there.
Why?
What do you mean why? Because
I have a statue. Why?
Because it looks cool.
Why put a?
No, but I mean, steelbooks are ostensibly functional, right? You put a disc in them.
Oh no, they're for display nowadays.
But physical media
puts this in them.
Physical media is not functional. I would argue. It's
Travis. I'm just going to mute you and your empty life over there with your white walls. Okay, I'm going to get you a padded suit for Hanukkah.
Sustainability.
Final Fantasy 16. They're clearly putting a lot of money and resources in it. I'm essentially going to be a blank slate as to expectations, so they have every opportunity to win me over. But as it stands right now, with the taste of the Forspoken demo in my mouth, which is not fair to Yoshi P, you still look at Square Enix and say, no. And honestly, for me, Final Fantasy has been my favorite franchise forever. But if you think about the years here, Final Fantasy 15 is years ago and was not a big win. Final Fantasy 14 is a biggish win, was released in a terrible state, and you really need to invest in it to get to where I'm told there's a good state. Final Fantasy 13 had the travails that we all know of. Final Fantasy 12 is effectively unfinished. People don't like to talk about that, but it just dives into the end of Final Fantasy 12 and spends way too much time climbing mountains and things like that. Final Fantasy 11 back to MMO. Final Fantasy 10, I think, is the last kind of universally praised game in the series, and that's the top of the PlayStation 2 generation.
Right.
So, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake is doing its own thing. That's honestly the best thing that I think the franchise has done, but it's not part of the main series. So, Final Fantasy 16, we'll see. We'll see. I'm currently referring to it as Devil May Crystal because I think it is funny and I amuse myself. But that is where it's at. And now that I know that it's rated M for mature, I don't know whether that means that they're just going to bloody up some kids like we've seen in all the trailers, or whether
they
they're
killed a chocobo in the trailer.
They did they?
Yeah, I think
Did
that's
they
the
really?
first time we've actually seen one. Yeah,
I didn't miss that.
They've
Or
killed
I
those
missed that.
before. I can still remember the beginning of the Final Fantasy, whatever it is, Final Fantasy 0, I think, where you start with a dead chocobo. But it's, I don't know. It worries me that they're trying to be edgy. I think it looks different than the edginess of Forspoken. It looks like they're trying to build Game of Thrones out of the damn thing. So I don't know. Go read the list of the things that the various regulatory bodies say are in this game.
Maybe the lead character's just going to curse every 5 seconds.
That's a risk.
As a casual Final Fantasy consumer who has no stake in the series, really success or failure, or really does anybody have a stake in any success or failure of a game?
Square Enix shareholders.
Shareholders, yeah. Aside from that, but I like that there's a breath of fresh air in the franchise. I don't know that it's
only fresh air. They've forgotten everything that is their foundation. It's been fresh air for 4 iterations now.
That's what games do. They adapt and they try to find something that works. And I think they look like they're having fun. That game looks super like fun and just out there, and they're doing crazy stuff. And part of the thing that I like about Final Fantasy is just the weirdness of the worlds that they make, and they're not as crazy as Xenoblade, but they're a lot more polished in a lot of ways. So I like to live in that space, and I definitely don't have any sacred cows here when it comes to what the gameplay needs to be like or what features have to be in Final Fantasy to make it a Final Fantasy. I'm going to play this game, and so far, the trailer did more to make me like, okay, well, I was planning on playing it. Now I'm still going to play it, and it looks like it's got some dark stuff going on. They're killing chocobos and stuff, so it'll be cool. I'm down. What's the point of having a series called Final Fantasy if you just can't try balls to the wall out their stuff and experiment? I feel like that's the purpose of that franchise. At least that's the way I've seen it, is they're untethered from each game, so they can just try new and weird stuff, and I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll see how it lands. I hope it's great, and I seriously do have it pre-ordered now, so we'll see what happens with it. With
2 steelbooks.
2 steelbooks. Damn right.
Just a weird thing to me.
It's very weird.
Let's catch up on super chats. We got a few that are sitting on here with a very generous super chat from Mr. Detective Seeds.
Yeah, with the $49.99 super chat. Thank you, Detective Seeds, even though it looks like you're not here because you got to bounce to play more of The Witcher 3 next gen. Have a great show. Love the vibe and convo.
I don't blame you. I'm about to leave these guys so they can continue without me.
Literally, if I had it right now, I would have been like, yeah, guys, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to see you later.
Detective Seeds, very generous, man. Thank you very much. Hope you're enjoying The Witcher. Excited to talk about it again with everyone for like the 10th time this week. It's going to be fun. Yep. Pampa now.
Pampa with the $10 super chat. You guys excited about Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores and Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty? 2
things that are on the list that we hadn't gotten to yet. So good timing on this one. I know the 2 of you love Forbidden West. You excited about this expansion, which, by the way, PS5 only.
Super
they
weird.
Said that it is not coming to PS4 because
is that a party foul? Can we ask the question? Is that a party foul by Sony on this? Selling the
Seems weird.
They believe in generations, Hoke.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
It does seem weird to release the game and to not only release the game, but to have quotes defending their technology in releasing the game on PS4 and then have an expansion with a quote that says, to reach our vision, it has to be PS5 only.
Didn't they
haven't
they done this before? Wasn't the Spider-Man Miles DLC also PS5, or did that?
No,
come
the
to PS5
Spider-Man
too?
Miles Morales is on both, but you could only
Okay.
get their remake featuring Tom Holland as Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5.
The original game's remake is PS5 only.
And then it's only sold, I think, in a bundle with Miles Morales. There's a Sony.
It's a mess.
God bless you. Your business models are interesting, but no, Miles Morales is on both.
Yeah.
In fact, everything's on both. I mean, Ragnarok is almost clearly designed in certain ways with crevices that Dan hates and whatnot because it has to operate on the 4.
Oh, it's not just Dan.
Yeah.
GT7 was both. Yeah, I mean they're cross-gen fully.
Well, I guess what I don't understand about it is I don't understand game development at all. So they developed an entire game on a Decima engine, is that right?
Decima,
right? And then
the bringer of Death Stranding.
Like, what could possibly, I would think downgrading would be easier than upgrading, and this is my basic dumb knowledge of, how to develop a game, but it seems like they would have to use the same engine as Horizon, Forbidden West.
Yes.
So.
Oh, it's not a different engine, man.
So it's basically the same thing.
It could be that they have so many assets and a draw distance, and it just performs like crap on the PS4, and they're having trouble optimizing it, and so their solution is just not put it anywhere. But there are things that are so big and ambitious that it's not that you couldn't put them on previous gen, it's just that it doesn't really fit. It's not the experience that you want consumers to have, and so you drive them toward a more powerful box. That is a thing. It's just that it's not common, and it sort of makes it feel like you didn't plan the release kind of model and what platforms it was going to be on. It's just a messaging problem, I think, and like maybe a pre-plan.
Well, it feels bad, man. Right? You bought
it does, yeah. If you bought the base game on PS4,
you want to see the end of your story. Presumably, there'll be one DLC. You want to see the end of what we were producing for this. Good luck. Go buy PlayStation 5, which we just increased the price of if you're not in the United States.
They increased the price of it, and also they do not have an easy path for upgrading to the PS5 version and carrying your file over and all that stuff. The PlayStation's lacking in that kind of category. So, it's
they're usually like 20-step fun things you have to do to cross over. Yeah.
At least they have they have games though. I don't know.
Right. And I think that's the fight you're going to see. Yes, Sony has games, but their release schedule and their release models are very interesting. And I think that's worth mentioning. We don't have to spend an entire hour talking about how the Hollywood sign would not survive 1,000 years in a post-apocalyptic environment, but that's okay.
Hey, you don't know that Hollywood is eternal.
I do know that.
So Dan, they do have Guerrilla's done some actual GDC talks around stuff they had to cut from Zero Dawn because of the hardware. Which are really interesting. Like there's a reason you couldn't fly on their whatever the name of the flying pterodactyl thing is in the first one. That was planned for the first game, and they couldn't get it to work. So they had to do some really funky stuff to get that to work in Forbidden West. So I'd be curious, to your point, to understand exactly what it is, why they decided, or maybe it could be as simple as development. I mean, you're talking about resources at this point, right? To develop the game on both, you need additional resources. Maybe Guerrilla just said, we're only going to dedicate a smaller team to do this expansion. The rest of us are moving on to whatever project they're doing next, and they're just not going to dedicate the resources to it.
I can't look at Sony with anything but cynicism after the past year of messaging. So I say, hey, if we can use a DLC to move people to the next box, damn it, we'll use a DLC to move people to the next box.
Yeah. And I'm glad that the studio views Los Angeles the same way NorCal people do, which is
an apocalyptic hellstorm.
California DLC.
Papa always also asks about Phantom Liberty, which, as Amit points out in the chat, the same thing. It is next gen only, so you can have Cyberpunk on PS4, Xbox One, but you're not playing Phantom Liberty on it. So,
the thing that jumped out at me on this, I'm just going to be honest. I love Idris Elba, I really do, and basically everything he's in. They did not learn their lesson, or they were already too far in development on their lesson of the problems that having celebrity voice work and integrating it into their game had. They're wasting money on things that are relatively minor in the experience. Keanu Reeves, I think, was probably the worst mistake they made in making Cyberpunk. Love Keanu Reeves.
I disagree, but Go ahead.
Well, you go look at how they evolved their game and how they changed what they were doing with it to accommodate Keanu Reeves.
I see what you mean. Yes,
I don't think
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves brings a great performance, and he's not a voice actor. It's fine, but like I don't think that it worked out very well. I think it pushed him back. I think part of what happened with Cyberpunk is a result of that, and I suspect Idris Elba was actually signed for this a long time ago for this particular DLC. But the very first thing that jumps to my head is, they did it again. They did it again, and this is to me kind of one of the things video game companies do and get confused by. It's not the same problem, but it's like Peter Dinklage and Destiny.
Yes, that is exactly the example I was
Peter
going to do,
Dinklage,
because
yeah.
the problem with casting celebrity voice actors is that your ability to access them is limited, and if you make changes to your game or if you're adding stuff to your game, you have to try to get them again. And that's why Destiny had to recast Peter Dinklage, because you are not going to get that guy in a recording booth every month for your new season pass dialogue. And so their solution was to never have your ghost speak during the later days of that. And so it's like if you are doing a one shot, you better record VO when you don't have anything else to add, and not plan on releasing a sequel or DLC that involves that person at all, because accessibility to that, access to that actor and that voice is incredibly difficult. I also just think it's kind of one of those things that doesn't matter a ton. It's not, I don't think it draws a lot of people in, like, oh, well, if Idris Elba's in it, I'm for sure going to, play that game. It's sort of a different, movies do that because you want to see the sexy cop on your big screen. But to me, I just think it's an unnecessary distraction. And I say that as somebody who thought that Keanu Reeves did pretty good in Cyberpunk. Also, this was the one of the announcements I was most excited about. I'm really excited.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's weird to me though, Travis, because all I ever hear as a Halo fan is that Bungie's infallible. So I don't know where they went wrong there. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can tell you, Bungie is probably the most fallible I've ever. I mean, if you saw them,
there appears to be an open revolt happening online right now.
People have very short memories.
So what's funny is right now they released a dungeon on Friday, and the dungeon doesn't work and is broken.
Sweet.
But their social media, they forgot to unschedule those tweets promoting the dungeon that you can definitely play this weekend. And so we're getting tweets this morning. They're like, have you had a chance to jump in with your friends yet? And we're like, no, we haven't. Thanks, Bungie. Yeah. So it's
my son, he was cussing it out. It was just like, God, I hate this stupid game. These stupid devs. And then 10 seconds later, he's like, oh man, you hear about what's coming out for Destiny? I'm just like, dude, I mean, I don't understand it. I said, I know another guy that has this love-hate relationship with this. Yeah. With this, it's insane.
It's sunk cost fallacy. It's
it's more like Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome a little bit. There's a little bit of that. I think it's love-hate relationship. The thing I always say on Destiny is it's one of the best and 10 of the worst games I've ever played, and I stand by that.
I still think it has some of the best shooting in video gaming. But Ains, can we segue to this? Because how did you feel about Lightfall and its showing?
Oof.
Good. I had an oof feeling too.
It didn't show well for me. He said Ains, Travis, so why don't you be quiet for a second, all right?
Sorry, it was Destiny related.
Do I have to mute you? I'll mute you.
No,
I'm kidding. No, in all seriousness, I don't. Travis is the better person to speak to this. For me, as a non-Destiny player who kind of dabbles occasionally, it didn't do much for me. It looked like they're trying to capitalize on this kind of synthwave vibe that seems to be happening in a culture right now, but it didn't do anything for me. I was like, what is this? This doesn't. It seems counter to the thing I like about Destiny, which is the sci-fi fantasy. It seems like they're trying to be God, what's the word? They're trying to be kind of cool, they're trying to
like Far Cry when it did the Cyber Dragon thing.
It just doesn't it doesn't fit with what I think of Destiny. I don't know how the community feels about it, Travis.
Yeah, Travis.
Oh, so this is the hilarious part is I appear to be the only person in the community who holds that opinion, Ains, and it's super funny to hear people who don't play Destiny saying that exact same thing. People ate up the Lightfall trailer and its mood and its tone when it was originally revealed, and they were like, original reveal a while ago, and they were like, this is going to be great, and they showed a lot more in the original reveal than they showed in that trailer. And so people were just like super stoked. And my initial reaction was, guys, this is supposed to be the penultimate chapter to the super dark story,
right?
Where we're finally meeting the person. And it feels like a fun summer vacation where you go to a
Right.
Saturn and you have like a Tron adventure. And I was like, the tone is completely wrong. I feel like the entire thing that they're trying to sell you is a vibe. They're like, oh, look at this
Exactly.
vibe.
That's a good word.
It's a futurist, retro futurist, techno vibe, EDM. Let's all, put on our sparklers and what are they? The
Go party in the
dark, glow in the dark, bracelets and stuff. And I to me, it feels completely frivolous. And my initial thought was, I'm worried, because when the Witch Queen was coming out, you could feel the gravity to it. It felt like the final pieces were all coming together. There was this big confrontation. There was this big villain that we'd heard about forever, and it was all going up to it. This is literally like, hey, there's a bunch of new characters on this planet that we didn't know about in a city that's been hidden for all these years. And you're going to go on this fun journey and you're going to unlock some new powers. Oh, and who's the villain? Oh, it's this like C-lister that no one except for the most hardcore Destiny players would even understand who they are or why they're important, and it has nothing to do with the main premise. And my only thought is that they are misleading us, that they are presenting it this way because they cannot advertise the thing that Lightfall is actually about. Because this DLC is called Lightfall. It's literally supposed to be like the fall of human civilization before the final shape, which is the final chapter of the Light and Darkness saga that's happening the year after. And so if your DLC is called Lightfall and it doesn't feature light falling or some sort of like dark story where bad things happen, I do not know what you're doing. And so my only possible thought is that this is just marketing. They're showing the first half or the first piece of it in the same way that they marketed Forsaken as, hey, Cade died and you got to get revenge. And that's not really what that DLC was about. That was just sort of like the opening chapters, and it was kind of the kicking off point. So my hope is that the kicking off point is techno retro futurist. And yeah, I listen to the last word if you want to hear me talk about this for multiple hours a week. But I'm curious. I'm not happy with the way that they're marketing it, and my only hope is that it's a ploy. That's really where I'm at.
Because I'm not remotely as deeply invested as you, Travis. But one of the things that I really liked was just the title. I liked Lightfall as a concept when they announced all the various things, and then I came across it for really the first time at Game Awards. It's like, wow, it's giving me like 80s arcade vibe.
Yeah,
it's super weird. Happening.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Maybe the big bad will be voiced by Michael Madsen.
It's not. We already know we already know the big bad, and he's just like a fat old you guys, it doesn't matter. You don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say what.
But anyway,
he's more 80s arcade vibes.
He's not though. He's not 80s arcade guys. He's like an obese Roman emperor, like the fat one that just like would,
Callus or whatever.
Callus, that's the bad guy. Exactly. Nobody cares.
I did it. I'm out. I can never
the fact that you got a reference is amazing.
It was the first raid, I think, or maybe I'm
first raid in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
2. Okay. All right. That's way too much Destiny as it is.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. But no, to your point, an original question, as a dabbler in Destiny, that did nothing for me to want to play it. Witch Queen, I was like, this looks cool. This looks like a proper campaign. I could get invested in this. With this, I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's forgettable. Very forgettable.
What's funny is I think they were expecting the opposite. I think they were like, we'll put out these trailers to get in the casuals, and then the hardcore will know what we're actually doing with this DLC, and it'll be serious. But instead, what they've done is kind of made the fans be like, oh, it's going to be a fun little summer adventure. And then the people who aren't fans are like, this sort of looks like frivolous, like Fortnite event. You know what I mean? Like, why are they putting this out? So
Fortnite looks better.
Oh yeah,
my favorite.
Definitely a better live service model. Yeah.
Well, but the Unreal Engine 5 is doing some work in Fortnite. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's impressive, no doubt. My favorite, not necessarily reveal, but my favorite trailer and my favorite thing. Well, I said Judas is my favorite reveal, but my favorite thing overall, most anticipated, is Diablo 4, without a doubt. So this is Diablo 4 is coming. So you mentioned June earlier. Diablo 4 is coming June 6th. And if you pre-order the Ultimate Edition, you get it June 2nd. They're doing the whole early release thing.
4 days.
So
I think Activision's always done that, haven't they? Like since anybody started doing it, wasn't Activision first at the trough?
I think they were.
I think EA might have jumped them, but
Wouldn't surprise me.
No, I think Activision was the leader on that one. They started because they did it with Call of Duty, where you could get it a couple days early. I think
the campaign launched
right
early this year. Yeah,
it's my memory, but I don't. Who knows?
But anyway, the trailer was a great follow up to the original cinematic trailer for Diablo 4. Their cinematics are spectacular, and I am ridiculously pumped for this game. They timed it well because not only did they market this well, but they had the preview impressions from IGN and other major outlets this week kind of showing, and I know Ryan McCaffrey put his thing out on it, and plenty of other creators did too. And they are all, I try not to watch a lot of footage because I'm trying to go in dark, but I listened to some stuff and everyone is raving about how good it is. So I am absolutely pumped about this. Pumped.
Same.
Everyone is definitely not raving. I mean, I think you can read a bunch of different reviews of the preview stuff. But
I've listened to several, and they were all
not reviews, but
raving. But
they're reviews of what they played.
Yeah. First,
I understand, Travis, but they're talking about what they played.
Or something. First 10 hours, something like that.
Yeah, in level 25 and stuff. I read a bunch of articles as well. Yeah, it looks great. It also has some kind of singer person that I don't have any idea who that is. So
I didn't know who it was either. Halsey, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's why I joked.
Yeah, you were like
Halo person.
Yeah, Cortana's going to show up shortly. No.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Only after the acquisition succeeds, right? Now with Halo content.
Yeah. So Diablo in June. On the same day as the Ultimate Edition, June 2nd, we get Street Fighter 6. So Street Fighter, legendary IP fighting game, blah blah blah. I don't have to talk about Street Fighter, but I'm very excited. Have you played Street Fighter 6?
Yeah. I did the preview for it. Remember, for Tokyo Game Show.
Okay.
So yeah.
I forgot.
It's very, very, very smooth and very, very, very pretty. It's like a game that impresses you like 4 seconds in. You're just like, God damn! Like this is like so buttery smooth. It was a really, really cool game. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm super pumped.
Am I right to think that now Breath of the Wild 2, which I know you don't care about, Ains, but and Diablo are like within 10 days of each other on launch, something like that?
May 12th, I thought, was Tears of the Kingdom, I believe. Someone correct me in the chat. I'm not going to Google it right now. I think it's May 12th, but you can look. Someone can tell me. And then May 26th. So the end of May and June are crazy. May 26th is finally we got the date for Suicide Squad. Kill the Justice League, because they combined it with an announcement that Batman is going to be in the game, voiced by Kevin Conroy, and they did kind of a homage to him, which was nice. So we get Suicide Squad finally from Rocksteady about 19 years later.
You got it. It's the 12th.
May 12th. Okay, so you've got Zelda, you've got Suicide Squad, you've got Street Fighter 6, you've got Diablo 4, and I swear there's something else in May.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16, all within 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 6. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. And they seem pretty certain in those dates for the most part. I don't know why Nintendo would tell us a date if they didn't think they were going to hit that. Although Nintendo has not shown us anything from Tears of the Kingdom.
Just that trailer. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
Diablo 4. I think I texted you this as well, Ains, which is I said, okay, it's winning me over. There's some stuff in there that I've read in the previews and some things. I still don't love this kind of live service, open world fight with your friends, whatever they're doing at the end. Nobody knows the end game. They haven't shown that yet. So I don't.
The friend game is the end game.
We can all be friends.
Damn it, Travis. I think for Diablo fans, the 15th, it is the 11th as we record this. On the 15th, they are doing a developer live stream where they're showing, I think it's called the Codex of Power, which I think ties into the end game, to your point. And it is also the day Collector's Edition goes live with the Steelbook, which I will be ordering.
Ains, every time you pre-order something, I want a full inventory of what tchotchkes and other materials you are collecting that collector's.
He makes videos of them, so you can find that out exactly what he's getting.
It's true. It's very true.
I will make a video of his impact on landfills with all these collector's editions. That'll be my contribution.
He didn't make them and sell them. He's just buying them.
Yeah,
that's sort of the the
but anyway,
causality, though.
Yeah, I think I think it is TBD, to your point, Hogue, around the Diablo experience has been where co-op is obviously a big part of it, but it is not you can certainly play the other Diablos offline by yourself and have a great time, whereas this one is definitely online only. The hub worlds, the cities and the towns are like Path of Exile, which is where it's there's other people, there, live people. And they're going to have world events as well, things that pop up in the open world. So implementation is key, right? It could be fantastic, it could be poor, it could be anywhere in between. But
with an all-online Diablo presentation, I would not anticipate playing Diablo 4 on the day that it is scheduled to release.
You're not joking, man. Diablo 3's launch was a literal nightmare. Even Overwatch 2 here in 2022 was broken for days. I'm very nervous. I'm going to be excited about Diablo 4 launching, and I'm already nervous I'm not going to be able to play it for a few days. So
we'll see.
The last thing I had on our list was Tekken 8. I'm not a big Tekken fan. I know there are big Tekken fans. They're really excited for 8 here, so we got to see more of that.
Cool. Great lore in that game. It is. It's got great lore. It does.
He's not joking, because I know there's like family character stories. But,
yeah, it's
cool.
It
has great lore the same way Fast and Furious has great lore.
All right, Travis, I'm gonna need a video breakdown, Travis, of the multiple endings and character arc for the kangaroo from Tekken 2 to Tekken 8.
I'm sure that there's a YouTuber who can give it to you.
I'm
sure that exists.
Right.
Yeah,
probably right. We got a couple other things I'll mention in terms of reveals. I know there's a lot, but what about this game called Crime Boss, which announced like 10 real actors and actresses?
It's again, Payday trying to make itself known.
It looks like a Saints Row trying to be a movie.
I think it's Payday. I mean,
it's
based on
Payday creators.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's Payday creators. I think it looks like
they're making Payday 3, actually.
Yeah. Well,
Postal 6.
After almost going out of business and having a huge fraud thing and then having to reform themselves. And I've been following that epic for a while. It's crazy.
At least to me, it looks like it's a first-person heist game from the clips that we saw. But it's not like they detailed what the game is, which had a couple of problems at the Game Awards, right? Like that game was a little bit unclear, although you did get clips of first-person shooting in banks and things. There was one called like Immortals or Immortalis or something that I have they didn't even establish what it is their game is. It's supposed to come out next year. Sometimes developers do that kind of thing.
Yeah. So there's that. There's Lords of the Fallen, which is, if you're not familiar with this, right? They had the original way back in like 2013. They planned a sequel. It was kind of a Souls-like. They planned a sequel. They canceled the sequel, went to a new studio, bigger team. They're kind of rebooting the whole IP from scratch. But what I've seen of this game so far looks fantastic. Now, obviously, gameplay, etc., will TBD. But I love what I'm seeing out of this one. For someone like me who loves these games, or loves those types of games, I should say. Got a Bayonetta Origins. They got really excited about a new Bayonetta game and then showed a game that's anything but Bayonetta, which I found interesting. Looks like, I guess if you're into that IP in that world, that could be something interesting. Got Earthblade, which is from the creator of Celeste, which was one of the top games when it released. I know it was up for Game of the Year in several areas, very highly rated, but Earthblade is their next game, although it did say in the release that it's not coming until 2024, so that's certainly no time soon. And then Banishers. Yeah. So anything else you guys want to call out on the reveals?
I think you got to give Travis Star Wars.
Oh yeah, Star Wars, of course. Jedi Survivor. So coming in March as expected. I tell you what, I'm excited for that game. I know you guys all three of you are better Star Wars aficionados than I am, but the actual gameplay they showed in that trailer didn't do much for me. I'm like, this is not
identical. It was really wild how much it looked like the old Jedi game. So, I mean, Travis said he thought it looked spectacular. I disagree, not because I thought Jedi Fallen Order was fine, but like I felt like I had played that when that trailer had ended.
So are there two protagonists? Did I get that right? Is that what it looks like to you? Did it look like it was like the one guy, then the other guy with like the pistols, like the Han Solo-ish guy that was kind of? Maybe I saw it and nobody else did.
I saw. What are you talking about?
We're talking about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Jedi Survivor. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
We're
so
talking about specifically the trailer.
I thought I saw another guy that was fighting alongside him that had some kind of blasters. And I was wondering, since the blaster was one of the pre-order bonuses, the blaster skin, that maybe that was a second playable character in the game. You know what I'm saying? No?
I don't
know.
remember seeing a second person in the trailer.
Joe
There were a
says
lot of
yes.
trailers.
Joe says yes,
Okay.
and Josh said it looked like a support character. Yes, there was a Han Solo looking dude. Yes,
Yeah,
it
they
did.
also kind of set up. Sorry, I was trying to delay speaking because the UPS guy was blasting his music. Apparently, he's never heard of headphones. So it's like right out front of my house. He's like delivering mail, just jamming. Yeah. So they actually had kind of set up the potential for other characters being possibly playable in Fallen Order. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were holding some secrets, but I think they did show some new stuff, right? There were some new enemies. There were dual lightsaber. That's different. We'll see how that kind of changes things, but maybe alluding to new fighting styles or ability to customize more than in Fallen Order 1. Sorry, I can't call it Fallen Order. Fallen, yeah, because that's the name of the first game.
Yeah, no, they should have kept Fallen. I think that was the one they should have kept, but it's fine.
But yeah, the original game is great, and to me was always a proof of concept because there were areas that it fell short. We talked about its map a lot. There were certainly ways that they could have improved sort of the Metroidvania situation, any enemy diversity, what was the big one I was gonna talk about that did look much better in this one?
The overall jankiness of jumping boxes and hitboxes.
Oh yeah, the jankiness, that sort of stuff, and also the fact that there's nothing you can customize about your character is pretty bad, because to me that's sort of part of if you're going to do the Souls-like formula, I feel like you need to add more RPG elements. And so I think that's what they were alluding to with the double lightsaber thing, is maybe there's going to be a few fighting styles and maybe you can equip a blaster in one hand, or who knows.
There were
what
a few fighting styles in Fallen Order. I mean, you had the double.
Yeah, you could do double bladed.
Oh, right. Yeah, you unlocked different lightsabers. There was no dual, right? I'm not making.
There wasn't dual. There was double.
Yeah. No. You could take them apart.
You could.
You
absolutely could.
There were certain moves where you had the dual bladed, and then you took them apart. And
God, has it really been that long since I played this game? It's funny. I 100%ed it too. But yeah, I think those were more like stances to me. For some reason, the turning on the second lightsaber, they clearly set that up in the trailer like that was a reveal. Like, okay, now he's got another one. And so the way that said to me is like, I think there's going to be an inventory screen now where maybe you can kind of customize or choose like
I hope so.
This is lighting style, something like that. Because I think that was something the first one was missing. Is it really felt like a halfway of a Souls-like game, because it was really an adventure game first that relied on a few Souls-like tropes. Yeah, and so I think they could go more that direction. But I love Star Wars. We live in a golden age of Star Wars right now. There's just so much good Star Wars content out there, and I'll say
don't you two start.
Don't.
Hey, dude, and Andor, Tales from the Jedi. Have you been
Andor
watching?
is fantastic, and isn't it great for the exceptions to prove the rules about how awful the stewardship has been?
No. The stewardship has been great. You just haven't been watching Star Wars since 1984. So yeah, it's I think this game's going to be good, and I'm excited to see what they do with it with the sequel, because I think that if any game some games you hear about a sequel and it kind of makes you upset. You're like, are we really going to do that again? To me, this was a game where when I finished it, I was like, I think the sequel is going to be really good. So I'm excited about a sequel. I feel like this game needs one because the first one had so much potential, and so I think there's a big opportunity to make this awesome. So
I agree. I thought the first one was a good game. I think some people maybe overlook some flaws because of the love for the IP, but the game had some very clear flaws. I would also, we all know, everyone in the world knows it has the worst map. But there are other gameplay aspects.
There are other games that can give it a run. Go use the Ragnarok map.
Yeah, that's true.
The Ragnarok. See, look, back on Ragnarok. I also, if you're going to do a Souls-like, one of the biggest things for Souls-likes, in my opinion, is the level design, right? You kind of have that circle back level design where you unlock paths and you discover new things, and then you unlock it, making it easier. And they tried to do that in the first game, but some of those levels are really poorly designed, and they're just cumbersome to go through. Combined with the map makes it even worse. So I hope they kind of expand upon that in the second one. But I'm excited for it for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fine. St. Patrick's Day.
No doubt, no doubt. A couple more super chats we got to get to here, and then we're going to get to these actual awards.
Yeah, game positive.
10:05.
Oh yeah, what we got? What time is it? All right. Someone show Hogue the Steelbook wall. It is impressive.
Oh, God.
I've seen it in real life. It is huge, and that was a while ago because it's probably been added to. It's nice.
Actually, believe it or not, it's been changed, subtracted from a little bit. There's a shelf over there now, but
no, damn it.
Yeah, no, it still looks good. There's a lot. I have a lot of Steelbooks. Yes.
How do you subtract Steelbooks?
Well, it used to be like almost an entire wall.
It's like
now
a big
it's kind of like
wall.
a frame of a shelf with statues on it. So anyway, more to come.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you. Gecko Gamer in the house.
Yeah. Does the D2 community react the same way to updates as the Warframe community? Complain about the changes, declare you're going to leave, and then come back the next day. That seems to be my son's MO, actually.
No, that would be great if that's what they did. The Destiny community used to do that. Now they largely, at least the parts that I see, are incredibly obsequious to Bungie, and anytime they put out anything, they just gobble it up without any sort of like cursory criticism or second look at it. And it is really frustrating to me because I often find myself the only person going, yo, like that kind of sucks. So
yeah, I don't know how the Warframe community acts, but I know there's other people that do agree with you, Travis, that I see that play Destiny that are like, this is not good. But
I need to hang out with those guys. I hang out with a lot of yes men in the Destiny community. It makes me upset.
That doesn't make the game better. You know what I mean?
I agree.
We talked about that before. Is you need to have some level of criticism if it's deserved about what the studio is delivering, especially in live service. I mean, look at Halo this year. So
yeah, I mean, neither does being a jerk, but I think there's a middle ground.
Absolutely,
where you can have valid criticism and not be a complete jerk. And I think complaining in the Destiny community is sometimes treated as toxicity, and I just don't. I mean, I'm a critic, so that doesn't jive with me at all.
Yeah, we've talked about that, but yeah, agreed. Gecko, thank you, super chat, man. Always appreciate you. All right, so we'll go through the key ones here. We're not going to go through every category, like I said, but some of the ones that really jumped out to me in terms of the awards. So I'd say right out of the gate, guys, we joked about Stray being up for Game of the Year. Stray was up for 6 awards.
Very disappointing outcome.
Did they win any of them?
They won debut indie game. They won over Norco, Neon White, Vampire Survivors, and Tunic. And I think on top of that, you've missed some key indie games that should have been up for debut indie. But I just don't understand when we've talked about it, right? When you think about, they won Best Independent Game as well, Travis. Stray did. Best Independent Game. So when you think about all the indies we had this year and all of the titles that could be up, why is Stray featured so heavily in this award show?
What's hilarious is that is the only indie game I played this year that was up.
You might have just answered the question.
That is why it won.
It was free. It was free on PS Plus if you had it, I think, and a lot of people played it. I mean, that's the only one. So
in a year where Rogue Legacy 2 came out, Nobody Saved the World came out. Great. So many games. You can like different types of games. Ooblets was great. Neon White is great. There's
Isn't Immortality an indie game too?
Immortality is an indie game. Nobody likes Immortality at the Game Awards. I could make some snide comments about it being above them, but it's fine.
And it got nominated at IGN.
And it's not above IGN. Thank you, IGN. No, it's Stray is essentially trying to be a AAA game out of an indie mold, and we've seen that consistently win at these kinds of awards, right? What's the game where it's like a rendered girl and like little leaf people in a forest that won the indie game stuff because it's trying to be a AAA type game? You remember this?
Kena?
Yeah, Kena.
Oh, Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah. I mean, what it goes for is it's like our favorite indie game is the one that most reminds us that it's not an indie game or tries. Like that's what wins. And that's insane. That's ridiculous.
There's actually a word for that. Triple I. Somebody in the comments said that. It is. That's a phrase. Triple I.
I haven't heard that.
where it's an indie game that's
Cult
got
of the Lamb came out this year.
Yeah.
There's
Cult of the
so many
Lamb.
good indie choices.
Vampire Survivors is all over
Vampire
the place.
Survivors came out this year.
Yeah, and I think its original release was like December
Marvel
of last
Snap,
year,
is that,
which
I think
still
that counts as
qualifies for
indie?
it.
I don't know.
I don't think you can.
Marvel-
If you slap Marvel on it, I think you're out of the
Yeah.
indie races.
And I know Marvel Snap did win Best Mobile Game, which I thought you guys, would appreciate. I don't know if that's accurate because I haven't played any other mobile game, but it did win.
Probably.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Nothing. I was just going to say,
Okay.
I think there's a preference for obviously accessibility and especially accessibility on the Sony platform. I think if it's going to be if it's a PlayStation Plus game, then those tend to win a lot of game awards. I don't know if that's just because Jeff's inner circle and the people that he recruits are PlayStation folk, but it did strike me that like if it was a PlayStation game and lots of people played it because it was accessible like Stray, then it got a lot of exposure. And if it was on Game Pass, less so. I guess it just shows the importance of getting people to play your game. That's half the battle, man. If you want to win awards, you got to get people to play it, apparently.
I think it's fine. I mean, if Stray wins, I assume many of the voters, that was their first video game, and video games are pretty impressive in 2022.
Your backhanded compliments are my favorite thing, Hogue. I adore them. So
is that even a compliment? Goes my camera.
There going your camera.
What
You
did
are
I
sponsored.
do?
Travis, brought to you by Elgato.
Oh boy, this is not good.
What was I going to say? So, as we all are aware, because he's still talking as of this moment, Chris Judge won for best performance over Charlotte McBurney for Plague Tale, Ashley Birch for Forbidden West, Sonny, is it Soljic for Ragnarok as Atreus, and Manon Gage for Immortality. Which I think we kind of all saw coming. It's like an assumed win for Judge, but I know that people take issue with it. I tend to agree with you guys now that I finished Ragnarok that his voice is very memorable, right? He has a standout voice, and it echoes. And I think when 2018 hit, his performance kind of stood out. But I don't feel that it had the same impact in Ragnarok. I didn't feel the same way about it, that his delivery... Yeah, it didn't feel like this was a standout performance for him, and I think there could have been a better winner here. Nothing against Judge, by the way, but
I mean, I have a few things against him, his speech making. But yeah, no, I like Christopher Judge. I like him in the role. I think he is good as Kratos. I don't think Kratos has a ton to do. And I don't think some of his performance, honest to God, I know this is not allowed to say, some of it sounds phoned in. There are instances in conversations where he sounds asleep. And I don't blame anybody for that. That's, that can happen. It's a long game. There's a lot of lines, but I mean, literally Manon Gage probably has the best performance maybe in the history of video games. And I know some people don't want to give Immortality credit, or they don't want it to really be reviewed at the same way as video games. It's all, you can actually see her face. It's all actual, acting in movies or television.
Live action.
Yeah. But it was the kind of performance that immediately finishing Immortality, I would say that in a different medium, if they were recognizing this as a movie, I mean, like that's the kind of thing that would get nominated for an actual Oscar. And it's a shame.
An actual Oscar.
Yeah, an actual Oscar.
Funny.
Well, as opposed to the Jeff Keighley's. Yeah.
But Oscars are also not really, like, they're also kind of a joke. So.
Oscars suck. So do the Golden Globes. So do the Emmys. But I mean, if we're talking about the ones that have been around longer and that generally people respect more, I would say that in general, the acting in movies and television is superior to the acting in video games. I'm sorry. I love video games. It's my industry. I will say that the live action formats generally have, at the high end, not everybody, on a curve, at the high end, better high end acting than video games.
Sure.
And again, it came down to how many people saw Chris Judge do Ragnarok versus saw Immortality actors whose name I don't know.
Of the critics class. I mean, I don't know how many people have beaten Ragnarok.
It feels like a popularity contest, to your point. And Jake Warsaw in the chat says, I just don't think there are meaningful judgment criteria for TGA nominees and winners. Immortality was objectively a better acting performance. And I think that's kind of the point that we've been making since we first talked about this.
All right, Travis, I was going to wind that back. So be quiet for a second. You can't associate objectiveness to a subjective quality. I get that. I get that, but he's just using it there as literally or figuratively as we use it right now, meaning a lot. It is a
The-
much
the-
better performance.
Correct. He's using the millennial definition of objectively. I got it.
Right, which I would not see, but
it-
language is descriptive and not prescriptive.
Yeah. Yeah, it objectively contains its own antonym. It also means subjective as well.
It has to mean subjective.
Got
You
it.
wouldn't put it in there if you didn't think it was a subjective question.
Yeah. So anyway, I digress.
That was today's Travis and Rick grammar talk.
Yeah. Here's the inherent flaw is that if you are an Oscar judge, if you're somebody voting in the Oscar, the Academy Awards, they send you all the movies that you need to see and you're expected to watch them. Right. And it doesn't take that long. If you're a judge on the video game panel, it has nothing to do with the critic class or blah, blah, blah. It just has to do with the fact that they don't send you the stack of video games and go, you have to play all of these. You have to finish them all. That doesn't happen. They just invite you and they ask your opinion. And it comes down to which ones did you play? And more importantly, which ones did the most people play? Which one has the largest overlap in the Venn diagram of, people that we invited here? And if you applied that to any sample size of gamers, you would get bias based on popularity, accessibility to those games, etc. And so, yeah, Ragnarok is a bigger game than the other games that were nominated for voice performances, including Immortality, including
Travis,
and especially
I usually agree with
Immortality.
you. I usually agree with you, Travis, but Immortality is literally a game composed of video clips. You can literally go in there and just see man engage act as your first entry point into this game. So it's not quite the same as I need to go through everything. If we had a nomination process like the Oscars, could you actually have a developer go and say, hey, here are the 10 minutes of man engage that you should really see? Absolutely. And I think we could have a process like that.
That's my point is that I think there is a better solution here. It's just that the current model of, all right, well, I'm Jeff, I'm going to invite certain people from different outlets and people that I care about and just ask them their opinion with no sort of we don't have full transparency, but I'm just speaking from what I've heard of that. There's no real vetting or evaluation. It's not like a society of people who kind of decide and are held to a certain standard or even have to see the things that they're voting on. It's really just, hey, what's your opinion? And it doesn't have to be particularly well informed. And I think it's a bad process. So I would be willing to bet that, Chris Judge won because a lot of the other people that were nominated didn't really have a chance to showcase their talents to the people
Judge
that made
won
the
because
decision.
he's a name people recognize. It's not just God of War Ragnarok. You look at that list of names, Christopher Judge is the one you recognize. He's also a returning winner.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, the good news, guys, is there was another category called Best Narrative. And
We're just going to go over all the stuff Ragnarok won. Can we just skip it?
Ragnarok didn't win narrative, did they?
Yes, they did.
Oh
Yes,
my
they did.
God.
Yeah, no, you freaked out. This is when I made the return or the Last Jedi.
This is why I brought this up.
Can we just say that Ragnarok won too much and it has to do with the bias and then just skip past all this crap? Because they won more than they should have. I have not played the game, so I can't really. I've not played it fully, so I don't have the same level of investment as you guys do. But I think that's sort of a takeaway.
Yeah.
Well, Immortality was up for narrative. I know that. I think Ains has just selected a list of things to poke me with.
I think so.
Well, there's more I was going to cover here, but obviously we've been talking about this for a while. So yeah, Ragnarok was up with Elden Ring, Immortality, Forbidden West, and Requiem,
Elden Ring?
which
That's where you head into
I
the big
think
internet
highlights the issue with the Game Awards is if you look through all these categories one by one, those same 5 games, well, Immortality moves in and out, but those 4 games, Requiem, Forbidden West, Elden Ring, Ragnarok, are up for 10 different awards, all of them. And it just shows the narrow scope, to your point, Travis, of here's the games that are popular, here's the ones people recognize, here's the ones people have actually played, here's the ones that are going to win the awards.
Right. And here's some ads. That's what.
And here's some ads to go over top of.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This is my Immortality face.
Did Plague Tale win anything?
Plague Tale did not win anything. No.
Plague Tale didn't win anything. I don't think Xenoblade won anything.
Wow, all the games I reviewed didn't win anything.
Well, actually, they had that on the list. It was you get those. The bouncer has the list. Well, Travis reviewed these. Nothing. No,
Yeah, I can't give it.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I don't see anything. So
Xenoblade didn't win Best RPG, Travis.
Crazy.
That's,
What won Best RPG?
I would actually Elden
Elden
Ring
Ring.
won the Best.
Oh,
RPG.
okay, that kind of makes sense.
I was gonna say I would actually debate with you guys on that one.
I don't view Elden Ring as an RPG. We've talked about this.
Well,
I don't know how you cannot call it an RPG.
It's an action adventure. It's the same as a Zelda.
well, here's the thing:
No,
is
it's not.
It is.
what makes it an RPG? I think that doesn't really have a definition, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Of course
Yeah,
it does.
What is an RPG?
All
then?
right, hit me with the RPG.
I bet
It's a
you
role-
if you asked 50 gamers, you'd get 50 different answers. You know what I mean?
You might. Yeah, it's true. I know this
Yeah.
is debated, but you're talking about a game that you literally build your character from
Okay.
scratch.
Build
You
characters.
can have countless.
It doesn't have to be from
different-
scratch, or else Final Fantasies are out. So builds characters. Next.
No, I'm talking about Elden Ring, and you saying it's not an
No,
RPG.
but you have to define RPG first before you
Yeah,
can
define
decide
RPG
what it is.
before you say Elden Ring is one. You can't define it by the game.
Well, okay, that's a broadly
No, because here's the
different
problem.
question.
Honest to God, Ains, here's the problem. Any list that you would say, we'll just pretend that you said one, and I'm sure it'll be cogent because you're a smart guy. I can tell you God of War is in that box. I can tell you
Yeah,
NBA 2K3 is in that box.
Yeah.
I can. I can tell you that all of these things are in that box. To me, it's more of an action adventure because the focus is on exploring caves and going into little dungeons, and that really matches with Zelda to me. And an RPG tends to be something that is innately related to dialogue, storytelling, and world building as its functional core. So even Western and JRPGs can meet that particular definition because it's about dialogue and conversations and getting quests, solving quests, and the building, the bar filling can't be your definition because every single game in every single genre has basically co-opted filling bars and growing.
But Hogue, wouldn't God of War Ragnarok be an RPG then by the definition of storytelling and quests being at its core? Because that's what that game is, right?
Right. No, that's what I'm saying is that God of War is the action adventure genre leans up on RPG. So you have to start deciding whether it's going to be focused on story or focused on action and fighting. Right. And I don't think anybody would accuse a traditional Final Fantasy of being focused on fighting, as a for instance. The battle system is the battle system. God of War goes in there and says, basically, we're going to talk to you the whole time, often annoyingly so, but we're going to walk between battle arenas. That's our world. And occasionally we're going to make you throw your axe at something. That's not
your definition of the story and dialogue and quests being at a functional core. I would say that Ragnarok still fits that definition.
I think if anybody's evaluating God of War Ragnarok as the story and narrative being at its functional core, then it's a 6 out of 10 at best. People are evaluating the fact that the combat is much better.
So you might say it's a 6 out of 10, but it's still an RPG by that definition, right? It still
this is what I'm saying is the problem.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that there's a way you
That's
can
why I
say
said the defining an RPG is a different question than is.
I couched even my phraseology as saying Elden Ring doesn't feel like an RPG to me. That the Soulsborne games don't feel like RPGs to me. They aren't tickling the same emotional buttons. They aren't otherwise interacting with my gameplay like I think of as an RPG. Starfield and Final Fantasy 16, God willing, who knows? And these other games that I get, Soul Hackers, whatever else I'm playing, those are RPGs. Midnight Suns. Actually, in very important ways, have role-playing concepts. And Elden Ring puts you in a field and says, go nuts. Now, I know it tells you stories, and I know the rings have descriptions, and I know all this stuff. It just
you meet NPCs and go on quests.
And you meet characters and do character building. And you go on everything you described, you do in Elden Ring.
I've never done anything in Elden Ring that makes me feel like it's an RPG.
Yeah, I mean that's fair because you have a definition of RPG that I think everybody would disagree with because everybody has their own definition and it's crazy. And I guess my point was that the award show doesn't have a definition of RPG, and that's my problem with this category.
That's probably true. Yes,
is that when people are voting on this, they were basically just voting what are your favorite of these 5. That was basically the question, right? Because there's no like, well, it has to do this thing and this thing and this thing well to qualify as an RPG, and you need to evaluate just those attributes of it to see how good of an RPG it is. Because if they did, then we might have some transparency into why Elden Ring won. What I think happened is they said, here's 5 games we count as an RPG. Now tell us your favorite out of these 5. And that's how the voting happened.
My understanding is the nominations were done by the voters as well, right? They have a longer list and then they pick the RPGs. But the problem with calling anything a role-playing game in video games, and this is a much longer video, right? We're already at 2 hours and a half or whatever, is that every game is role-playing. Every single game you play is not you. And you are playing a role. And so that's always going to come down because people will go online and be like, well, but you're playing a role. Like, honestly, it's a term of art in video games now. It doesn't mean playing a role because it can't. You play a role in a fighting game, for Pete's sake. It's a matter of what it is you're doing within that environment that defines what an RPG is.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we did get a super chat from Vault Boy in the house.
Yes, we did. Team Hogue, Breath of the Wild, and Elden Ring have similarities that would, in the action adventure category, 100%.
It's funny because a lot of people would say that Breath of the Wild is the RPG-ization of the Zelda franchise. Yeah, that's like what a lot of people describe that as. So it's kind of fun. They call it an open world RPG. So it's
Zelda's always been Zelda. I mean, Zelda was always an open world RPG. Breath of the Wild is just bringing that to not switching screens.
From Abe. What's up, Abe? Good to see you. Feel like the focus of the game is leveling up, enhancing your build. It's an RPG. Most people don't play Skyrim for the story. That's damn true. Elden Ring is like a Western RPG.
Skyrim's a weird pull there because I think Skyrim is one of those fantasy fulfillment RPGs where you want to walk around and go into a village and sort some things. I mean, character building is interesting. Again, that you're going to have to separate NBA 2K out of this eventually. I mean, you're going to have to figure out where your line is.
You know what's funny is my definition is totally different, which I assumed that would be the case for this entire panel. But mine has to do with like it's an RPG if you can tell your own story, right? Like in
you kick
Elden
Final
Ring,
Fantasy out.
Yeah, exactly. I do kick Final Fantasy out on that one.
One of the progenitors of the genre is kicked out. Like that's got to be one of your.
Sorry.
No, it can't be. I mean,
it is. It is. It's my definition. I get to do what I want. I kick it out. It's gone. Then
it doesn't mean anything. The words are win.
We've determined that we don't know what an
none
RPG
of them
is.
mean anything, Hope.
Stay tuned.
It's an arbitrary definition. Yeah, but I have to put the player choice because for me it's like about like, oh, I'm playing this role that I want to play and I'm going to get to do the things I want to do. And Skyrim, you can be a wizard or you can be a thief and you kind of get to do that sort of thing. And that's what makes God of War not an RPG is because they tell you the role you're going to play and you play it. You're playing a role, but it's not your role. It's
and what
their
is
role
Final
that they're
Fantasy?
giving you. It's an adventure game. Action adventure game. Yeah. Turn-based.
We're going to move on from the RPG conversation. We'll solve this one day. Volboy, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. I want to shout out the Keeley for audio design. I'm a very big audiophile. I've talked about that before. The fact that Plague Tale Requiem wasn't even nominated for audio design is absolutely unbelievable. It's got some of the best audio design. I'm talking purely about audio design here, nothing else about the game. The audio design in Plague Tale Requiem is literally like the gold standard. And Ragnarok won it, which, again, goes back to the same conversation.
I don't know what audio. Yeah. It's funny. I would probably give it to Callisto right now. It's going to fall between.
Callisto's fantastic.
But Callisto with headphones is amazing. Yeah, I feel like part of the problem from some people is that you do have to set yourself up for Callisto. You got to be in a dark room with some headphones on. But it's I love it to death.
Yeah, it's very well done. All right, and then what was the game of the year? You know, Elden Ring. There was justice at the end of the show.
Tiny flag.
And then most anticipated game was actually Zelda over Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, Final Fantasy 16, and Resident Evil 4.
That checks out.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Diablo didn't make that list, eh?
After the boss.
After a decade in the wilderness.
That's the one I thought was should have been at least listed was Diablo.
Folks, Diablo is going to do okay in the marketplace. It's going to do
I think it is.
Let me ask you this, Hogue. Best family game. The nominees were Lego Star Wars, Splatoon 3, Mario and Rabbids, Switch Sports, and Kirby 1.
My honest answer for best family game, this is just from personal experience, is Nintendo Switch Sports. Okay. We have a blast with
it.
Yeah. It's playable in the room with your family, notably. And it is excellent. But Splatoon 3 is probably the one that gets the most play. But we play through Nintendo Switch Sports all the time. Did you say Kirby? Was Kirby nominated?
Kirby won.
The Nintendo category.
Am I weirdly the only guy who's played all of the family games, and I'm the one guy without a family besides Hope?
I played all those games on that list.
Yeah.
In fact,
I me though, and there's two other like fathers here who haven't played the family games.
Different ages.
My son's 17 now, man. Yeah, he's out.
Well,
I'm 33 and I played these games by myself.
I jokingly said I would trade straight up the family game category for the game of the year category because like that's where the fun lives in Hogue House. I think it was a very strong list. But I mean, like Lego Star Wars is amazing. That's the best that Traveler's Tales has ever done.
I actually, if I were voting, I think I would have the hardest time deciding on that category because those were all bangers. I probably actually weirdly my answer is the opposite of yours, Hogue, which is if I had to cut one off, the easiest would be Nintendo Sports. I know because it didn't really click with me. I don't know why.
But it's so well done, and they actually designed how an online interaction should work with like these quick sports. We probably played it the most out of the Nintendo Switch games this year. I mean, like that's just how it went down.
Yeah, and then I think my contender for winning. I'm glad Kirby won, by the way, but like my contender
good.
for winning is probably Mario plus Rabbids, which I know is your least favorite on the list, or I suspect.
Me?
Yeah.
No, Mario plus Rabbids is great. I just
I
don't
thought
think
you didn't like the sequel. I really like the
No,
sequel.
no. I like it. I don't think it's as good as the first one. I think they struggled a little bit with their new dynamics, but much like a Travis in an optimistic mood, I think the new dynamics are worthwhile to explore. I just don't think they nailed it.
Yeah, I like
Splatoon 3 won best multiplayer as well.
Yeah, on that list, I thought it was the best one. I don't really remember the list now, but what were they?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, Modern Warfare 2, Multiverses, and Overwatch 2.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best one on that list.
It didn't Multiverses come out of nowhere and win fighting game or something?
It won.
It did, yeah.
Game.
Which it's actually very good, Hogue, as a fighting
played
game.
It a bunch. Yeah. I disagree, but that's okay.
I mean, yeah. In the reason I know it's a good fighting game is because Mitch Saltzman is like obsessed with it, and he knows his.
I think there's a difference between liking fighting in a fighting game and thinking it's a good fighting game. It does nothing for me. It's not presented well. The UI is a mess. The music's terrible. There's a lot of.
You played fighting games?
Yeah, I like fighting games.
Yeah, those true of all fighting games though. The UI, the music, it's like they're all. That's like part of the genre. Okay,
so if we were to straight up compare like NetherRealm's output to Multiverses, I think NetherRealm would have a significant advantage in UI and presentation.
Yeah, probably, but honestly, not much better. Some of those games are rough in UI and the way they describe things, and the audio design is usually a mess. It's weird because
I think you're stretching a bit. But
Multiverses, people are liking it. People are happy to have a Smash.
It's a big game. Yeah,
but it's like to me, it's like, well, you got your free. Mom, I want Smash. We got Smash at home. Here's Tom and Jerry in a kind of somewhat weird thing that's free. That's to me how it feels. It's just discount store Smash.
It's not my thing, but I the fighting game people that I trust really like it. So
yeah,
it's popular. Yeah, and because it's free to play, a lot of people played it. So it goes back.
I'm also just
circling back to the same conversation.
Yeah, I'm also just happy that like new stuff got nominated and won, and like those were the interesting categories for me, and they were often the ones that got just glossed over. No one coming to the stage to talk. It was just like, all right, you want an award, next award, you want an award, next award, you want an award. All right, let's get back to trailers.
Yeah,
they've done that. They've done that for years, and I agree.
I know, and I hate it every year. It just really bothers me. But Nintendo must be feeling good about finally winning best multiplayer game. That's got to be a first. I don't think that's ever happened.
Well, the funny thing is that Mario and Rabbids also won best strategy game over games I don't really know well, so I can't speak to them. But Victoria 3, Dune, 2 Point Campus, and Total War Warhammer 3. Those were the other nominees.
That's a weird nomination list. They didn't nominate Triangle Strategy as a for instance.
Triangle Strategy was up for RPG, I believe.
Of course.
Yes.
Classic.
Let's not go back into that.
Classic RPG.
No choices at all. No walking around anything. Okay, so Midnight Suns would win that easily if it had been a month earlier released.
Gotcha.
And it won't be considered next year because
it will be considered. It will also.
It won't be. Yeah, the same way that Halo Infinite was considered this year.
Yeah, there was racing and sports too. GT7 won. GT7 had a lot of issues.
I disagree that it was like an amazing game, but I also looked at that list and I was like, were any of those better though? I feel like
I agree. It's not a great list. Yeah, agree. All right. Anything else on the Game Awards, guys?
No. I hate that fighting and sports are one category. That is stupid. It makes no sense.
Sports and racing.
Sports and racing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sports and racing bothers me as a category. It's basically just throwing in all the stuff that like nerds don't care about into one category, like a token, just you were good, I guess, but nobody cares about you. You're for, core gamers, whatever.
Yeah.
Me.
All right.
Sport of racing.
I get that racing is a sport, but a lot of you wouldn't call Forza Horizon a sports game.
You race, you do events to gain.
Yeah, but it's not a sports game. It's like I call it a CarPG, but I feel like also there's years where there's enough racing games for us to have a proper category and sports.
Well, and sports games
smash them together. Yeah, they smash them together, and it seems to me like one of those things where either just don't do the award and admit you don't care about it, or like if you're going to be that specific, then maybe don't have one category for all RPGs and then like stuff them all in there too. It's just the broadness of it really bothers me, and that award in particular kind of just makes me laugh.
Well, and
He
someone
doesn't
else
care
just said
about
it in the chat too, but sports gaming, like whether you like them or not, sports games are some of the best-selling games every year, most played games every year. Like they are a gigantic genre in gaming. Like it does seem weird to just disregard it. Anyway, all right. So, Hogue, I know you can do this quickly because you've talked about it ad nauseum this week.
I don't think I have a choice but to do it quickly, eh?
Yeah. So this week, the FTC announced it's going to sue Microsoft, and Xbox aligned people are yelling foul and yelling that the FTC lied, and PlayStation guys are yelling that good, they should be sued, and they're trying to destroy PlayStation, and PlayStation is a pauper on the side of the road who doesn't make any money, and it's pandemonium on the streets. And I need to know quickly what's actually happening and what the significance is of it here, so that we can weed through all the nonsense, as I know you do.
Sure. On December 8th, the date of the Game Awards, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States elected to move to block the acquisition of Activision by Microsoft. That move to block did not entail bringing the case to federal court, which is the normal course of business for the Federal Trade Commission, to seek a preliminary injunction, which is the court's power to actually stop the deal. They decided to forego that. Primarily, I would argue, because they don't need to block it. They're not going to close over a regulatory action. And their friends in Europe are still going to take 3 to 6 months to figure out what they want to do. So there really wasn't a reason to do that. That's kind of the first myth you might have seen, is that it was likely to close because that preliminary injunction didn't exist. I disagree with that analysis. But suffice it to say, the FTC decided to move forward on the premise that purchasing Activision would allow Xbox and Microsoft as a company to take a monopoly market position that would hurt competition and gaming overall in 3 separate markets. The first is high-performance consoles. We'll get back to that in a second.
Yikes.
The next is subscription services. We'll also have to get back to that because the FTC is having fun definitional arguments with all these. And the final one is cloud gaming, which it announces is a separate market, despite the fact that neither Microsoft nor anybody else in the high-performance console marketplace actually sells cloud gaming as a separate service. We'll come back to that. Suffice it to say, it's not a terribly strong argument in their case documents. I would argue that's a part of the reason why they don't want to bring it to federal court, because the FTC doesn't get to decide what the law says. They actually have to go through a process, except when they do get to decide what the law says. So in what they actually brought, which is a complaint document amongst their actual administrative procedures, they're going to present their case to an administrative law judge that is employed by the Federal Trade Commission. Now, the Federal Trade Commission, under its current composition, has lost a number of actions in its own court in front of its own judge. But the kicker to that process is that, as part of the Federal Trade Commission's Act, who do they appeal to if they lose in front of that administrative law judge? They appeal to themselves. More specifically, they appeal to the commissioners to decide whether the administrative law judge got it wrong. Now, it might not surprise you very often, but the Federal Trade Commission, when they lose in front of the administrative law judge, very often says, nope, he was wrong. And then at that point, Microsoft can bring a claim to the appeals court. So what we're looking at right this second is a long process that Microsoft would have preferred to avoid, relatively weakly argued, and nobody really knows what's going to happen here. I will say I probably will make a video, if I still have any energy after this excellent podcast that's gone a little long, to talk about the FTC lie complaint. I have a thread in my Twitter, @HoagLaw, that talks about why I think that's too strong of a statement about what the European Union said, what the Federal Trade Commission said. But to shorten it here for you all, the Federal Trade Commission based part of its complaint document on the fact that Microsoft isn't to be trusted because they told the European Union that there was no incentive to ever take ZeniMax games exclusive. And then about 2 days after the European Union approved the deal, they took Starfield and Redfall and said Elder Scrolls and various things would be exclusive on their system. And then enterprising people in these various communities went and asked the European Union about whether or not they felt that Microsoft had essentially welched on their deal. The European Union said there was no deal. Then people came back and said, well, the Federal Trade Commission is lying and everything must be burned down. And I think it's more complicated than that. I think the European Union actually answered a different question. And suffice to say that much like the rest of the document, the Federal Trade Commission stretched things. This does feel very politically motivated, almost as if the conclusion was reached before the arguments were made. But we don't have to call people liars here to have that conversation. So I'll probably do a video on short form, Hogue short form, so at least 10 minutes, that talks about that particular logic process and why I think people, which I love y'all, I'm getting the DMs, I'm seeing the ats, gotcha. I think that they are overemphasizing certain aspects of this, and this is going to be a mess. But people ask me how I think the deal is going to go, whether it's going to go through. It really is going to depend on Microsoft's wherewithal. I think if you get this all the way up to a court of competent jurisdiction outside of the Federal Trade Commission's wheelhouse, Microsoft has a major chance to win. But that's a lot of time. That's a lot of resources. That's a lot of money, and it's a lot of distraction. And so one of the other videos I plan to do on my channel is the dates you need to know, because the penalty price for Microsoft is going to go up in two separate tranches, two separate groups over the course of the early stages of 2023. And those are essentially going to act as exit ramps for Microsoft to decide whether it wants to go and fight for this or whether it wants to save $1 billion. And so that's going to be an aspect of this. And then again, I say those videos, I've got about 6 that I should be making. We'll see how I do, folks. I did 14 videos last week, all said. So I'm going to do my best. Federal Trade Commission has sued. Everybody is watching. It's not great for Microsoft. It's also not the end of the road. How was that?
Pretty good.
Excellent, sir.
I think the interesting thing for me was I didn't actually expect the FTC to go through with this. I thought for sure all the stuff we were seeing was we were going to get a consent decree. And yeah, I'm just very surprised.
I think one thing I would add to that, I agree, Travis. I didn't think they would pull the trigger on this. I did think they would draft up a complaint. Part of the process that you can have at the Federal Trade Commission level is they draft up the complaint, they share it with the parties, and they say, let's fix this, let's do a consent decree. And those consent decrees will say, we showed them the complaint, they're making these promises so that that complaint goes away. You don't have to bring that. You don't have to make the lawsuit. You don't have to do the big press release about how cool Microsoft is. That suggests a certain amount of politicization of the process, especially given these facts. But it is important to note, one of those days to note, the actual evidentiary hearing on this, which is for practical purposes, the trial in an administrative court setting, is set for August 2nd, 2023. That's a lot of days to go and settle. If the Federal Trade Commission winds back, if they get political pressure, if Microsoft offers the right things, this is not necessarily going to end in a lawsuit, just like any given bringing of charges can end in a plea bargain or a settlement decree or whatever else can happen. So that's still in play, but we don't know exactly what the Federal Trade Commission's mood is or whether they're just ignoring everything that's offered to them, because they had to do a lot of ignoring to get to their complaint document. If you're interested in that, I have a 2.5-hour video that I put up on Friday that goes through the complaint line by line. And you can let me know whether you like that or you hate it. I'm getting both sides. Unfortunately, like politics, it appears to be drawn on console warrior lines right now.
Of course. Yeah. No, I watched a lot of that video. I was in the chat with you, and it was great, man. It was good. I love that the way you break it down.
I have a couple questions real quick, though. Okay. One, do you think the Microsoft pre-response was because they knew this was going to happen? When Brad Smith came out and he said, all this stuff, do you think that they knew when they said that stuff that that this was coming? And
Sure.
number two, real quick, how much is Sony paying the FTC to sue and put this through? I was just wondering.
They don't have to pay
I'll listen off the air.
On question number 1, so when the Politico article comes out that they say that the Federal Trade Commission is likely to sue, which is a couple of days after the New York Times says the staff attorneys are thinking about suing, I think Microsoft's kind of red button is hit. Now, right after that, the New York Post says one of the Democratic commissioners is wavering, which I have no doubt. Seeing how the complaint actually turned out, any person with legal acumen would be like, are we sure? Because it's not a very strong kind of argument in this context. But regardless of whether you think the New York Post is telling the truth about whether someone was wavering or not, Microsoft hits that button. Now is the time. They're going to take a vote this week. And whether we think we're losing or we think somebody's flippable or flipped and we want to solidify them, the reason I did 14 videos last week is not because I love doing 14 videos a week. I do not. But because they started that marketing blitz. So we got the Wall Street Journal op-ed. We got the Nintendo signing. We get the Gabe Newell statement. We get all of this stuff going forward. We get Brad Smith in Washington, D.C., and then on Thursday, they take their vote. So I think the answer to your question is Microsoft knew now was the inflection point, and you unload your ammunition, regardless of how you think you're doing, and that's what they did. And then the second question is, I would honestly argue that Sony didn't need to pay anybody. I mean, I would honestly argue that because they didn't. But that the Federal Trade Commission and to some extent the other regulators appear to have been looking for a hook to hang their hat on. Right, that one of the things that Chair Lena Khan of the Federal Trade Commission has said is she wants to kill big tech. She wants to more aggressively look at these various things in antitrust, and she doesn't care if she brings bad cases. And so that combination is we're going to bring a case Sony showed up and said, "We got a case for you." And I think that's all it took as part of this process. And if you look at what they did, some of their arguments, some of their statements, because they have problems, right? I said I would come back to these things. The high-end hardware. Why is it high-end hardware? They need the denominator to not include Nintendo because it is so obvious that there is no market power changing hands if Nintendo is included in the video game industry. So they go on paragraph and paragraph and paragraph about how Nintendo is differentiated. The problem is all three of the competitors in a hardware market are differentiated. PlayStation is going to sell you a VR console. Xbox is moving into subscription as a service. Dragged Sony into subscription as a service as a part of that process. Nintendo gets dragged into multiplayer from its two competitors on the multiplayer side. This has been an ongoing cycle of violence or virtue, however you want to feel about these things as they are in process. FTC and the CMA before them at the UK have to say Nintendo's super different, even though the Xbox Series S appears to be a reaction to ownership of that part of the market. And then people are constantly trying to go and grab Nintendo's market share just as the same as they're trying to grab each other's. Now, are Microsoft and Sony having a closer competition within that environment? They are, but you can't just excise Nintendo from the market. So that's one of those things that's a problem. Game Pass itself is a problem as a separate market because in order to have an antitrust action against Game Pass, you have to establish that it is different, that Game Pass as a market is distinct from buying games or renting them or otherwise acquiring them in some way. And traditionally in American jurisprudence and everywhere that actually looks at these questions, the method that which you buy things from, the business model of it doesn't change whether or not you are involved in the market. The example I used on my video is a car dealership. If you buy that car, that's great. If you lease that car, that doesn't suddenly make those cars in two separate markets. And that is going to be a major hurdle for the Federal Trade Commission to actually win this. Cloud services is even harder for them because outside of being a market in which the only investment in has crippled companies and lost the money, so we don't know whether there's a market there at all. It's only ever bundled with Game Pass from Microsoft. So it's very difficult to establish it as a separate market, period. And it goes throughout that entire document doing that kind of thing.
And their competitors use their cloud service for their cloud offerings. So
right, which can lean into the Federal Trade Commission saying that they essentially have a bottleneck that can cut off the oxygen to one of these companies. But they don't even make that argument very clearly. So yes, 2.5 hours, much more content in that. I'm going to have, I don't even know, at least 5 videos on various aspects of this. We have to talk about the fact that now one of the major unions in the country is upset at the Federal Trade Commission because they had negotiated a kind of sweetheart deal with Microsoft. There's a whole host of things that are going to happen around this. And in terms of timing, I will tell you the very first date is that Microsoft has 14 days, calendar days, not business days, to respond to the complaint document from December 8th. So it looks like I'll have a good Christmas, I guess. We'll see. Microsoft has a tendency to file 112-page documents when everybody else files 20-page documents. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's not like they're not well versed here. So thank you, Hogue. Appreciate the breakdown as always. A lot of positivity in the chat, not around what's happening, but around your explanations in your videos. So always appreciate you breaking it down for us. In the, I mean, you're an Xbot at heart, but you know.
I don't think I've even turned my Xbox on in a while. Well, no, I played Vampire Survivors over there. If that makes the difference, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. You're one of the rare Sony Pony Xbots.
Yep. Well, yeah, but I switch between the two.
Yeah. It depends on the day, right? I knew it. All right. Well, thank you again. Chat, you've been amazing. It's been a great show today. I'll go ahead and end this poll now. Miyazaki or Kojima. Miyazaki takes 61%. It is hereby determined Miyazaki is our Lord and Savior. We can end that poll and argument forever. We don't have to talk about Kojima anymore. Thank you. Good night.
Stupid poll.
Yeah.
Why do you have to choose one of the two?
Yeah. Where's Kevin Bean? Yeah.
He's in his own, he's doing his own thing over there. He's hanging out. To go ahead and close this out here, as we said, with the upcoming weeks around the holidays and New Year, we will let you know what's going on in Bitcast. Just pay attention to our Twitter. I'll put messages up on the channel officially as well. As we already noted, the week of Christmas, we won't have a show because it's Sunday morning. But other than that, we'll let you know what's going on in the other weeks. On the Season Gaming channel, we'll have full footage and stuff of Witcher 3 Next Gen this week on Tuesday, I believe. Along with there's a couple other new videos out there of hardware, a new controller I tested for the Switch. I won't go into all the details. Just check out the channel and you'll find it there. Travis, what you got happening, man?
I got 2 previews going live early next week. I think I can say what they're for. One is for Bandai Namco game, One Piece Odyssey, that comes out next month, which I played down in San Diego. They had it on a pirate boat. That's where the took place.
That's
appropriately so.
I was racking my brain after last
Yeah,
week. So why is
pirate
he on a
boat.
boat?
I was in a boat because it's a pirate game, and we did it on a giant boat. And then also Super Fuse. I have the new build for that, and have more. So if you're a Diablo fan, that game is looking even better than the last time I played it. So I've got a preview.
You
for
gave
that
a
going
very
on.
positive impression of that. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
I'm very excited for that game. And then finally, I've got my review of High on Life, which will be going live sometime next week. I'll be finishing playing it today, and we'll get writing immediately. So, yeah, busy week for me. You can find me on IG.com. You can follow me on Twitter. Tell your enemies to follow me on Twitter if you want to irritate them.
Twitter doesn't care. Just follow. Any reason.
Just follow.
There you
Give me
go.
the bot.
He'll mute you. You won't even know. So just follow.
This is very true. Very true. Hogue, you've kind of already said what you're up to, but anything else you want to shout out?
No, we'll be doing hangouts and headlines as per usual. If only to give myself a break between Federal Trade Commission versus Microsoft stuff. But I think you can expect the whole week, if not the whole of 2023, is going to be focused on, in my opinion, one of the biggest news items in the history of the video game industry. So we're going to be covering it.
Very good, sir. All right, guys.
Yes.
Chat, like I said, anyone listening, tuning in, thank you so much. Great to see over 200 people in the chat today. Share it with your friends. We always have a good time here. We try to be informative. And as we said, we'll have some good shows in the coming weeks with the holidays. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and we will see you next Sunday. Peace.